Hello, good evening, and welcome to another double feature, Honey Badger Radio number 56 and Rantzerker number 58, Elbowgate, and other feminist threat narrative tomfoolery, fear-mongering shenanigans.
Yes, and also, if you hear the voices behind Brian, it's because, well, you tell him.
Oh, well, I live in the ghetto. And there are, when it gets warm out, motherfuckers out here do not know how to act, so they just run out into the street and start talking and loudly. And this is what I'm not kidding. You may hear like bass dropping out here. That's because people are driving by with their driving their Pintos that they spent like $500 on with the sound system they spent like their entire year's salary on. So. Which is probably like another $500.
Yeah, no. And the one thing about the subwoofers too, right, is that actually the sound is louder 16 feet away than it is right there, right? Because of the wavelength. So the wavelength crests like a certain distance away. So you get it louder in your living room when your windows are open than they even are experiencing it in their fucking vehicle.
That's true. The whole block is vibrating, but not right now. So, well, just saying, if it happens, I'll try to control the mute button on my end so that it doesn't get too loud.
Yeah, the only problem is when you're talking, we can. It's like it's like you're from some sort of you're broadcasting live from like a crowded event.
Yeah, I am. I mean, look, you can see. You can see right over there. There's the project like right over my shoulder. And it's not really that much different from what's going on.
You should sign off like this has been Brian Martinez from Kabul from Honey Badger Radio, signing off.
Yeah. And you should also give some like really important military secrets. That's something that happened when I was in the Gulf War. There was a really stupid female reporter.
Yeah.
Who was essentially giving away positioning information about missile attacks, and we're all like, "Fucking shut up, bitch!"
You're doing, yeah.
Don't make it easier for them to kill us. That was interesting. Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, well, that's what they do, right?
Yeah, they're fucking stupid when they're not psychotic and.
Why hasn't anyone else broken this scoop? Why isn't anybody else grabbing this scoop? Oh, I just like here. It's for me. I'm gonna do it.
Yeah. Anyway. The history with reporters, my spotty history with reporters goes way back.
Yeah.
Well. Anyway.
So yes, I'm live from Chirac, and this is I am.
Oh, okay. All right. So, yes, I have, as you probably have heard, because I've mentioned this multiple times, I set myself a shilling goal of getting up to the next funding goal. And that funding goal is 1,250, and we've just broken 1,000, which is great. And it's very heartening. And so thank you for everyone who supported us. When we get to 1,250, we can expand, or well, perhaps not expand operations, because I can hear everyone groaning. And it's like, fuck, you already give us way too much fucking content. Stop with we could improve and create more. Higher per second man-hour videos, so videos that require higher man-hours per second, but have a higher degree of quality. Not that I'm saying that there's lacking in quality here, because this is more spontaneous, off-the-cuff personality shit.
We are so low rent. Stop fucking making excuses. Holy shit.
Yeah. You are.
What do you mean low rent?
We're 100% fucking low rate.
Well, Brian is broadcasting from a ghetto.
Yeah, it's not like I'm doing this from my villa in the.
And Karen is broadcasting from her house. She hasn't finished the repairs on her.
I don't even have an upstairs bathtub yet. Okay, so.
But at least you have an upstairs toilet now.
I have an upstairs toilet. I have an upstairs sink. I do not have an upstairs bathtub yet. I have not cut down those 2 trees in my yard as yet. I'm looking at doing that this summer. And but right now I'm just trying to deal with the discovery that my son made when I asked him to take the sandbags that were cut open along the edge of the sidewalk and were poking out from under the grass. I asked him to take them out, like pull them out and get rid of them, and then he discovered that in behind those and covering the entirety of the yard, we have actually sandbags buried under our yard, unopened sandbags underneath our lawn through the entire yard, which is why we haven't been able to actually grow.
Oh, are we losing Karen?
The lawn doesn't hold water.
Okay, well, thank you for.
I don't know whether we're losing me or not, but like literally we have now a discovery that fixing the yard is not going to be anywhere near as easy as we thought. So yeah, I live in.
You just need to stop vomit.
Sorry.
Brian, give me the controls because this is the epic level of echoing here, and the only way to stop it is with a control. Yeah, good. I gotcha. Now I can mute and unmute Karen myself. All right, good. Anyway,
what?
Aside from the long digression into Karen's landscaping problems, Jesus fucking Christ, you just put me in a goddamn ditch. How do I get the? Okay. There's no segue possible here between your landscaping and the fucking fundraiser.
What? Okay, who's gonna pay to dispose of all of this fucking sand? Like, honestly, like we're not living like kings here. I'm out in the fucking yard.
Who's gonna pay for the backhoe to get rid of
fucking lawn?
Karen's sandbags in her lawn?
I don't pay somebody to do that. I have to do that myself, right?
Do you know do you know how to drive a backhoe?
We all have fucking shit to do. We all have fucking bills to pay. Like, and I don't have a fucking studio in my house. I don't even have an upstairs bathtub. Like, we're not living like the fucking, like, Sultan of Brunei here, right? You know, and honestly, like, we are a team of a whole fucking ton of individuals, none of whom are actually really, very few of whom are getting paid. The only ones who are getting paid are the ones who are actually working more than full time on this endeavor, right? And like literally, if you want better content, if you want content that's edited to a higher degree of quality, if you want content that's more interesting, if you want content that doesn't involve me over talking Alison and going off into a fucking rant about my lawn, right?
You want content with the sandbags removed.
You're going to need to fork over for post-production that would edit that shit out.
Even though, you know, a lot of people might actually miss it. But anyway, so I have a goal of 1,250. And if we make it, we might just do like a very tasteful Trump/Bernie Sanders fiction, sort of homoerotic fiction thing, maybe narrated by Karen.
Like a will they, won't they kind of.
Well, you know, depending. I mean, we could send it back to the patrons and people who are supporting us. What level of spiciness they want their bipartisan. Jesus fucking Christ! But tasteful. Yeah. Oh, you want Trudeau versus
Trudump? Yes. And also maybe like if there's anybody that can do like impersonations of the Donald or Sanders, I think that would be great because like Vernaculus, he does a really good Bernie Sanders. So you know maybe we can get him involved. You know to just do a little bit of Bernie for us. Just saying.
Yeah.
Feeling the burn.
Yeah. So you know, or we could do a very tasteful. Lesbian romantic fiction between Karen probably seducing the Badger Chan character.
I actually really like the idea of Trump and Bernie, and I actually already have a plot, like an opening scene, like an opening premise for it, and so I might actually be interested in writing that and then narrating it in my. I could even do it in my Southern Belle accent.
Okay, so if you ever want to see that happen, please go to www.patreon.com/honeybadgerradio. Now I don't even know if I want to shill it because I don't. Well, you're hitting a spot, Karen. It's a spot that you're hitting.
My darling.
Go on.
What's
Just straight.
that?
No, it's sort of like
My
a
God.
in between. I want to watch, like, oh my God, that's a train wreck, and
Oh, my dear darling. It ain't gonna be a disaster. It's gonna be something wonderful.
okay.
Sublime.
All right. And I'm asking anybody who's listening, if you're not currently a patron, to tell us why. If you after that, I guess you don't really need to, but whatever. Send those responses to topic@badgerpod.com. Take a moment to consider it. Why are you not doing that? Because that kind of criticism helps. And here's something from Lightning Rambles. For a while now, I've wanted to support HBR via Patreon, and it has been killing me that I haven't been able to, and it's been killing us that you haven't been able to either. I've worked in the home care support workers industry, both privately and professionally, for 12 plus years now. And since February, things have been getting progressively worse for me at my job. This is after getting a promotion, then removal via a single conflict by a single female, to the point that now the company I've worked for has ceased trading. As of last week, I've lost my job. No worries that I'm without money, as I've already gotten back on the horse and got a new job, hopefully starting in June. When finances are more stable, I will do what I can to support you. The only thing I need clarification on is the openness of opinions at HBR. Are all opinions, whether they be positive or negative, welcome at HBR? Thanks. Well, thank you for writing in, Lightning Ramble. All opinions are welcome, but we may get sort of crabby if, we reserve the option of being a bitch about them. But, then we get over it and move on. And don't give us ultimatums. And I'm not saying that you would, but yeah, don't write in and say, if you do this, I'm very wealthy and I have lots and lots of stacks of cash, and I every day I go into my Vunny vault and I dive into my stacks of coins and I do the backstroke, and you can have all of this if only you do as I say. Don't do that, because we'll read you on air and Karen will probably go ballistic on you.
Yeah.
Just don't. Please, no ultimatums. But
Yeah,
the criticism.
no, literally my response to people who are like, I can't believe you talked to Steven Crowder. I unsubscribe. I'm like, keep your fucking money and keep your fucking subscription and don't come here again. Goodbye. Freaking don't let the door hit your ass on the way out. I don't, I'm not in this. I'm not in this to pander to anyone. I'm not in this to not offend anybody. I'm in this to actually spread awareness, and sometimes that means talking to people that you won't like, right? If Justin Trudeau wanted to have a sit-down with me, I would sit down with him and I would be polite, right? And I would talk about the ideas and I would talk about the issues, right? Even though if Gian Gomeshi wanted to, I would do that too, right? If Thomas Mulcair, who's the head of our socialist party, or one of our most socialist parties in Canada, if he wanted to, if the NDP Party of Canada wanted me to speak at one of their events, I would happily do so, and I would tailor the message. Here's why NDP people should care about men's rights, right? That's what I do, right? I'm not here to freaking cater to anybody's sense of like, oh, I don't want to be associated with somebody who would be polite to that person. Like, fuck that. Fuck it.
Yeah, I have to say that there was one person on the previous stream where you mentioned, and he was probably right. I think you were wrong about the reaction of that particular. It was actually, I think, a female comics creator, and someone was like mansplaining. I'm using that very ironically. Her own work to her, and she actually thought it was hilarious. And it was outside observers who, got offended on her behalf, and that's apparently how all that shit started.
That wasn't if this was on the previous stream when I described the origins of the term mansplaining.
Yeah.
It wasn't a female comic creator. It was a female academic who had written a big thick book that was academic work that had been made. It was sort of like Steven Pinker's The Blank Slate. It's academic work that's made accessible to the general public, right? Or like Freakonomics or whatever, right? So it was one of those books, and she had written it, and this guy had, and this is like way back in the fucking 90s, right? And so it wasn't anything to do with comics. It wasn't anything to do with that. It was actually about like somebody who'd written a political book or a frickin' social science book or an economics book or something like that. And the guy was and she had actually coined the term mansplaining.
Okay, well, it might have been a completely different scenario, but anyway, he said that if we don't, immediately correct ourselves or I don't fall on our swords, he would cease supporting him. And I was like, okay, well, I'll tell Karen what you said, and also tell me your patron name so I can unsubscribe you on Patreon, because I don't want to deal with you and your shit. And I don't actually think he was a patron because he never actually sent anything to me. But it's like don't do the ultimatum thing. Do not do the ultimatum. It never ends well. Nobody is happy with an ultimatum.
Oh well, it's like this is the whole thing, right? Who has bowed down to ultimatums, right? Tim Hunt, Matt Taylor, frickin', so many fucking people. Even Justin Trudeau, just over this thing that we're going to be discussing, he bowed down to sort of the ultimatum, apologize or else, right? And I don't think he should have apologized for the. I think he should have said, I could have handled it better, and there were ways that he could have handled it and come out looking like a fucking boss and embarrassing all of those assholes who were being cunts, and they were. But to apologize to this woman because he accidentally elbowed her when she was building a human fucking barricade, right, to block the business of the freaking House of Parliament, right, the House of Commons. No, that's like, what the fuck?
Okay,
right?
so Conspiracy says, I will donate $1 million if Karen puts on a fez and does a Russian bear dance. You see, that's not an ultimatum.
Yeah,
Karen,
no,
you're-
that's just an offer. That's just an offer. Yeah. I'm free to like say yes or no. Like, okay, give me your $1 million, right? And then threaten to take it away if I don't put on a fez and do a Russian bear dance. That's an ultimatum.
Yeah, that's an offer. There's a difference. Like the difference is, draw a sexy badger chin I'll commission you to be a sexy badger chin in exchange for being a patron, which you can do. It's on Patreon, and that's an offer, not an ultimatum. Ultimatums are different. What is the difference between an offer and an ultimatum? That is a good question.
One is the veiled threat, and the other one is, it's like a voluntary exchange. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I'll donate 100 blowjobs to Karen if she would clean her fucking kitchen.
No, that's okay. No, here's how about this? Because I don't have any. I'm not actually in the market for blowjobs. Okay, just FYI. But okay, you can come over and clean my kitchen anytime for free. You don't have to donate any blowjobs.
How about this, chat? Why don't you give us your impression of ultimatums versus offers, and make one or the other, and we'll determine which is which. That way we can all be on the same page. We'll do it for a few minutes, and then we'll go down to the Trudeau wrapping this delicate flower of member of legislative parliament. Yeah, this female politician, this delicate flower of female politicianhood.
Delicate petal of stateswomanship.
Yes, delicate, a delicate flower of the parliament. One of the few delicate flowers of the parliament.
Actually, probably one of several, but she really played it up. Holy shit. Okay, so what are we supposed to be doing now? Giving examples of an ultimatum?
Okay. Act now. Blowjobs are limited. I think that's actually probably some sort of sales technique, not an ultimatum.
Yeah, no, yeah. Especially since I'm not really in need of blowjobs, so.
Emmanuel Hernandez says, taking a shit while watching your stream, keep up the good work. Is that supposed to be acronymized? Like TASWWYSKUTGW? Okay. I don't think I added any meaning to that.
I don't. I don't think there was any meaning to that.
No.
He's just having a sense.
Here's one. Here's one.
And
Sly 9. Believe in me or you'll go to hell. I think that's an ultimatum.
that's an ultimatum.
Jax L. I'll buy an HBR shirt if I know the proceeds go to HBR. I can't actually assure you of that because I know that there are some people who have sold shirts and sold HBR shit and it has nothing to do with us. But if you go to our cafe store, which I personally hate, but if you really, really want a Badger shirt, then you can go to the cafe store. I do not advertise it because I hate it. And you can buy yourself there, and it'll mostly go to Cafe Press, but some of it will go to us.
Yeah, but I mean, like, like if that's, I'll buy a blah 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 if I know that that all the money will go to whatever.
Here's an ultimatum.
That's like saying I'll buy this coffee if I know that all of the money is that it's fair trade or whatever, right? And okay, so it's not, and they're like, okay, so I choose not to buy that. That's fine, right?
Okay. Dark Sora, if you don't get on topic, I will stop my patronage. Now that's an ultimatum. I guess now we can't actually go on topic ever.
Yeah, no, we're stuck. Oh,
we're stuck.
Why
okay,
did you?
See, an ultimatum is telling someone the outcome before they've made a decision.
No, because telling someone the outcome before they made a decision is the art of making a deal, right? Okay, I will. Reading the menu at McDonald's, okay, so if you pay $5.19, you will get a 6 freaking pack of McNuggets, right? That's not an ultimatum, right? An ultimatum is you have something, right? You have something that you've grown accustomed to, right? And I will take it away if you don't do what I want. That's an ultimatum, right? So we're married, right? And if you don't shape up, right, I'm leaving you. That's an ultimatum, right? Because this, like if I walked up to somebody, some stranger on the street and said, if you don't shape up, man I've never met, I'm going to leave you, right? Like he's just going to be like, what? Like, who cares, right? So an ultimatum has an inherent threat of taking something away from somebody that they have grown accustomed to having and that they maybe have actually invested in and paid for, and that they deserve, right? And taking that away based on some criteria that they failed to meet. That's what an ultimatum is. So,
all right, I think we pissed around enough. Okay, let's get this thing started.
Let's do it.
I know that we are actually technically giving in to that fucking ultimatum, but I choose to do it of my own free will.
Yeah, no, it's like we do have to actually freaking talk about Trudeau and the elbow gate and the delicate wilting petal of feminine parliamentarianness and
parliamentarianness.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. So this, I started 15 seconds in because they just basically bullshit for 15 seconds, which actually makes them considerably better than ourselves. But this is City, I think City Toronto maybe's take on Elbowgate, which we're now probably going to give a whole much more views for than they got on their own. So thank you. You should thank us, City TV maybe. Anyway, here we go. Tell me if you can't hear this. You know the drill, etc., etc. Brian, could you select me? Wait, I have to make sure I'm presenting to everyone.
You has been selected.
Okay, good. I'm selected. Okay, and I'm presenting to everyone, and I'm expanding this sucker. Okay, expand this sucker. What the fuck is... Expand. There we go. And here we go.
Speaking of album dropping, there's albums dropping and elbows dropping.
This is
Oh. She said albums dropping and elbows dropping.
Yeah, no, it's just like, what the, like, okay, it's like they're trying to make it sensational, and it's like, frankly, in my opinion, what Trudeau did is not news. The fallout from it is news, but what Trudeau did is not particularly
No, I would have to agree with that. Let's.
Wait.
Blown out of.
Are they? Is this a blatant product placement for Tim's? Because
Yes.
all of their mugs are facing towards. Okay, I just wanted to. Okay, all right.
Yes.
I know it's
They
not
probably
related, but
arranged it that way.
yeah, that looks so fucking arranged. How
Yeah.
Canadian is this image? That's all I'm saying. Okay.
Okay.
Okay, this is absolutely being blown out of proportion.
Yeah, I think so.
It's ridiculous. There are more important things to be talking about. By the looks of the newspaper headlines this morning, literally you thought this is what really happened in the House of Commons yesterday.
Okay, I just have to pause because of the copyright thing, but here we go. This is actually, and I actually agree with the guys. The guys are sensible.
This is literally what we thought happened now.
Pandemonium, a brawl. You know, all these words being used to describe what really happened. Let's take a look. Now, honestly, if you were watching at home, you probably would not have even paid attention.
Okay, so yeah, we're gonna pause it, and this is what happened on the Canadian.
I'm gonna just describe, because I watched this video several times, right? Okay, and here's what happened. The guy on the far right here, in the back here, like on the far right, he's a conservative MP. I think he's the party whip. Okay, so he's
Can you see my mouse?
Sorry?
Can you see my mouse?
I cannot. But the guy on the right, in the back, in behind this crowd of people, right? He is the conservative party whip, I believe. And what's happening here is there is supposed to be a debate and a vote that is, like, it's scheduled to have started already. You have this crowd of people who are all NDP, right? Who are, and if you look at it, like, there's things in the middle of the aisle here, right? And if you look at the left, that's the entire Liberal government, essentially. That's the Liberal Party's spot, and it's sort of this space that is open is their space, right, to walk through. And the space on the other side is the space. It's sort of like an etiquette thing or whatever, right? You know, stick to your own side of the freaking house, right? Is the space that the opposition members are, you know, supposed to be, you know, just sort of
Which includes
courtesy.
the conservatives and the NDPs.
And the NDPs, right? That they're supposed to be using this side of the space, right? And so, like, this guy, he's like, you know, it's a breach of manners for him to walk on this clear path, right? And on top of that, right, you have all of these NDP members. They're all clustered around, and they are intentionally blocking his way. And there's supposed to be a debate that has, you know, it's already behind schedule. There's supposed to be a vote, right? It's on an important bill. It's on the bill that's to decide they're voting on how long the debate should last to decide on the bill that will legalize or not assisted suicide, right? So it's an important bill. The Supreme Court of Canada essentially struck down the law on assisted suicide and said, you need a new law and you better fucking come up with one quick, right? You have a deadline. And so there is time is of the essence. They're supposed to be working, right? All of these people are supposed to be getting down to business. And you have this group of NDPers who are, like, doing the water cooler thing, right? Right in the way, intentionally blocking this guy's path to get to his seat so that he can vote, right? And so these NDPers are intentionally delaying, intentionally obstructing the business of Parliament. That's what they're doing. And they're doing it intentionally, as you will probably be able to see as you kind of try, as we play a little bit forward and watch.
Narrate for those at home who aren't able to see the video. But yeah, the other thing is
forming a human barricade so this guy can't get.
It's also illegal in Canada to barricade someone from their path if they want to go on it.
Yeah, it's not kosher. It's not okay. And they're acting like fucking stupid children, right? Okay, so we can move on. I've set the stage. This is the situation. and the Prime Minister is getting impatient because everything's already behind schedule.
And if you're watching, the Prime Minister is the guy who just stood up, and he's by the guy who's sort of straddling the banister. He's actually in between two, and he's about to walk over. Okay, that's Prime Minister Trudeau.
Watch his walk. I love his swagger.
Actually, I would watch first, like, because we can replay this, but I would first watch what this crowd of people does as this guy tries to get through.
Yeah, and remember, it's the guy with the black, like the very black hair on the far right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So watch the Prime Minister on the center part of the screen.
Oh, look at that! Those two NDPs are grinning like fucking baboons.
Oh yeah, no, they're like,
that woman. Yeah, we're doing something fucking illegal.
They're literally trolling. They're trolling him. They're like, yeah, no, we're not going to let you through. No, we're not going to. And also, sure, we're supposed to be sitting in our seats dealing with the business of government, but, we'd rather joke around and freaking, gossip and shit when we're supposed to actually be voting on something.
Yeah. So here it will continue.
Angrily walking over.
Okay, there is Trudeau grabbing the party whip so he can get to his seat so the voting can begin. And in the process of grabbing Trudeau is tall. In the process of grabbing the party whip, his elbow probably brushes this woman who was originally grinning like a jackal as she did something illegal, obtaining the party whip. Brushes her body.
By the way, the party whip for the opposition party.
Look at that, and she cries. She cries, and it just reminded me of those in European football, which is soccer for Americans.
Oh yeah, no, when they take a dive.
Yeah, those guys who like take a dive for a foul shot, and there's some of them that are just like that they do this constantly, and they're just famous for being dickish about taking a dive for fouls. And this is what this woman is doing. She is taking a dive for a foul.
Well, even if she actually was, elbowed to the point where it actually hurt her, right? There's no way from this footage that anybody could say that Trudeau intentionally elbowed her, right? That he intentionally assaulted her. It was, if anything, it was just an accident. Even if it was something that actually hurt. Physically hurt her, like caused pain, it was just an accident, right? And on top of that, it would never have happened if these fucking NDPs had not been intentionally making a human barricade to block the progress of one of their fellow MPs who was trying to get to his seat so he could actually get down to the fucking business of government.
Yeah. Okay, let's because there's gonna be several replays.
And
ow, my boob!
He accidentally elbows the MP.
How did you not realize that, though? You do see her turn immediately and say, ow.
Okay, so the announcer or one of the people, like the idiot woman, just said, how did she not realize that she accidentally? Because in the heat of the moment, he was just getting something done and getting it over with. It's not.
And here's the thing that would have made this so much better. Right, and I'm going to actually say this, and I hope Trudeau, somebody will direct Trudeau's attention to this, because this would be the way for him to have done this, come off looking like a fucking boss, right, and smelling like a rose, and embarrassing all of these NDP MPs who were making this human barricade, right, is if he had walked up his side of the aisle, right, and come around back and tap the guy on the shoulder and told him, these people are behaving like children, come on, and tapped it, gave him the same shoulder pat, walked him through, the Liberal side, right, of the House of Parliament, walked him, escorted him through, no, you don't have to put up with this, come on, let's go, right, I know you're in the opposition, in an opposition party, but this is complete fucking bullshit. Let's go, and walked him through that empty space, and tapped him on the shoulder like he did. You see him pat him on the shoulder as he sends him on his way, right? He would have come off especially if he said it loud enough for everybody to hear, these people are behaving like children, right? It would have, it would have been like, there would have been a special episode of Can't Stump the Trump, right, just for Trudeau in that moment if he'd done that, right? But he didn't. He made an error and went through the crowd instead of around the crowd, and it just, yeah, it just,
Well,
it put him in. I don't think he did anything wrong. I just think that there were ways that he could have done it better and come off looking like just absolutely, totally based, and made them look like a bunch of fucking retards.
okay. You're gonna have to mute because of the echo, but yeah, let's watch it again. And I know Brian was piping up there.
But he's just turning his body though, and that could happen if you're in a busy subway
So
station.
very
But he
loud.
is a boxer. He's strong, right? So I mean, it would have a strong impact.
Oh, look at this. Moo Claire, you elbowed a woman. Pathetic. You're pathetic. She was in the fucking way. He didn't do it intentionally. This is where it all deteriorates. He shouldn't have apologized. But you know what? There's a certain quality. Because I think that he agrees that women are inferior. You can't elbow a woman. You can't treat her like an equal because, you know, she's just an inferior. So when you do something like this after in response to her own illegal and illegal and impolite behavior, grinning like a jackal preventing someone from moving, you know, you can't do that. You can't treat her like an equal because women, they're inferior. They need a leg up from a strong alpha silverback gorilla into the cabinet. You know?
Yeah, no. And if you listen to the female commentator too, she was like, you know, oh well, but he's a boxer, you know, so he's obviously very strong and blah. Well, it doesn't matter.
He didn't elbow punch her.
It doesn't matter because it was unintentional, right? It was unintentional. She was behind him. He was unaware that his elbow came into contact with her. You can tell. Even it can't register.
Do these women ever get embarrassed at how, like, oh my God, men are so they're so huge and powerful. They're so immense, and they breathe wrong. They just makes us wilt. Do they ever get embarrassed by that? Do they ever like cringe inside themselves as they say this shit?
They don't. It actually gets worse and more cringy as we go on. Just let's.
Well, but I just don't understand. Like, and why do they think that they understand empowerment? If they all they can do is drivel about how much more powerful men are. I mean, yeah, sure. If he fucking elbow punched her, that might be a cause for concern.
He touched her with his weenus.
He wrapped her. He wrapped her. Note the extra P. All right.
He literally marched up to her, wrapped his dick around her neck, and fucking strangled her with it in front of the entire House of Commons. Right? And then, after she was almost unconscious from the strangulation, he just like unwrapped it, and then he just like repeatedly freaking lashed her with his dick. He just like beat her soundly about the head and shoulders with his penis.
Yeah, I'm impressed. You need to have a very limp penis to do that. But I think that Trudeau is up to the task.
We're down to it. Okay, all right. Enough bizarre imagery. Okay.
She does say "ow" right away. I think
Okay.
he should have
You know
apologized
what? He
properly.
did. Okay.
How is properly? He apologized.
No. She's saying he should have apologized properly. Well, I think that means he should have apologized immediately. But here's the thing: he was unaware that it had happened. You can tell that he was completely unaware that his elbow had bonked this woman, right? And he just kept on marching. He was just like, he just didn't realize that it was an accident that he didn't even realize had happened, right? So how do you apologize properly, i.e. immediately, right? If you don't even realize, like, it's just like, oh, he stepped on her fucking toe and he didn't notice, and he kept walking. What a fucking douchebag! Like, because he didn't apologize for something he didn't realize he did. Like, what?
Yeah, I know, and just the Democratic Party, the NDPs are making such hay out of this because now they've got one of Trudeau's cabinet.
So are the Conservatives. And, you know, I don't fucking blame them, because if something like this had happened and it was Stephen Harper, everybody would be piling on him. And these people on city TV wouldn't be saying, oh, I think this is blown way out of proportion. They would have been saying, oh my God, this is just more proof Stephen Harper is the devil, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So
But-
I really don't fucking blame the other side for making political hay out of this. You know, all of these fucking people made this bed. They can all fucking line it together, bugs and all.
Yeah. Well, anyway, what part of the hay that they're making is now, I think, a female cabinet minister has said that she feels afraid around Trudeau.
She's not a cabinet minister. She's an opposition member, so she can't be a cabinet minister.
Okay, sorry. Then, all right, I didn't know specifically, but anyway, she feels afraid now, afraid of how much she desires him.
The thing is, though, that, okay, the opposition goes on about how they want a committee set up, and they had speaker after speaker after speaker. Right now, there is an assisted dying vote that needs to be either yay or nay at the House. It's important. This way, I've seen more serious injuries to soccer players, like the ones who.
We have to realize it wasn't intentional. He was
Oh,
trying.
that's beautiful. That's beautiful. He called it. He's
Yeah.
like,
She took a
soccer
foul.
oh,
She took a fall for a foul.
take a fucking dive for a foul. And it's like he knows it and he sees it. These guys, they're not dumb, right? And
But
this
why
woman,
was she's like defending it? Because I know she knows this. She senses the possibility that she might be losing some sort of power from this, right?
oh my God, it's
Why
like,
are you supporting this nonsense, lady?
oh my God, it's
All right, let's just.
Trying to have business carry on, as it
Right.
were.
There was no malice to it. It
was
wasn't
no
like
malice.
there was no intent for him to injure that person. He just turned his body, and she was just at the wrong place at the wrong time.
And before you think I'm forgetting, no, it was completely wrong for our Prime
Yes.
Minister to do this. It was completely wrong for him to go over there.
oh,
It was
okay. You
completely
know
wrong.
what? You know what?
No.
Those fucking assholes. It was not completely wrong for him to do that. It was not the best choice. But there was
Yeah.
absolutely nothing wrong with him doing that. He did not intentionally assault anybody. He did not actually escalate anything. He just went in and got something done, right? He helped somebody out. He actually helped somebody, a man, somebody with a penis. He helped somebody with a penis out.
Who's being humiliated?
He
well,
was.
that guy needed some muscle.
Yeah, he needs
Well,
some
was the
muscle over there.
I don't know the muscle, right? And here's the thing, right? Because apparently the guy, right, the Tory whip or whatever, he's a hockey player, right? He plays hockey in his spare time and all of that. So it's not like he's physically incapable of defending himself, but he's barred by the manners of that are set forth in the House. He's restricted and confined by the etiquette within this space, right? And in order for him, like, it had to have been humiliating for him to be kind of stuck behind these people. They're not even facing him, right? They're literally, it's not even like that freaking, that Asian camera guy at freaking Mizzou, right? Who was trying to get pictures of the demonstration, right? And everybody's like facing him and forcing him backwards, right? Oh, we're just walking, we're exercising our right to walk in this direction. Right? You know, it wasn't even like that, right? They weren't even fucking facing him, right? Which is like such a massive diss, right? We don't even have to acknowledge your existence. We're just going to block you with our backs, right?
If anybody did something wrong, it was them. Very wrong.
Totally. They were the first people in the wrong. Right, and they were the ones who set off this entire chain of events, and they did it by intentionally trying to humiliate. Well, I don't know if humiliation was the intention of this conservative member of parliament, but their intention was to delay government.
Okay, Karen. Okay, I don't want to necessarily go back. No, actually, I guess I have to go back. Look at the expressions on Look at the expressions on their faces. If we go back, and I will go back to where we were. Okay, so this is where it all begins. Look at the expressions on the faces of the two men. You can see the half of their face. Look at the expressions on the NDP. Those are the expressions of people who are enjoying this. I would say that the intent to humiliate is fairly obvious because I've seen expressions like that in a crowd before.
But I don't know. I don't know if their intent was to humiliate this guy, right? Like, I think that they thought that they were getting one over on Trudeau, not that, and they were just using this guy, and they were willing to put him in a position that would humiliate him in order to get one over on Trudeau.
Well, they were certainly enjoying it. Let's put it that way. They were enjoying humiliating this guy, even if it was collateral, like humiliation. The fucking trollish grins on their faces.
Go over there. It was completely wrong for him to grab the party whip by the arm.
By the way, nobody to her left says, "Are you okay?" All of those people standing to her left see something happen. No one cares for her.
Because what happens is the opposition, and if I was an opposition leader...
Oh, look at that vituperative... Like, Jesus fucking Christ, you would hope that our leaders would be above looking like chimpanzees.
Yeah, no, if you look at Mulcair's body language throughout this exchange, right? He's got his shoulders squared and forward. He's got his hands, his arms rigidly at his sides, and he's, his entire physical presence is one of aggression, right? And essentially spoiling for a fight. Like, this is why, as he starts shouting this, you elbowed a woman, you're pathetic, you're pathetic. Those are like seriously challenging words in terms of like one man to another, right?
Okay,
and then
cackling. Sorry, go ahead.
Then you see and I've heard criticism of like the people on the Liberal side swarming over, right? But Trudeau is already surrounded by NDPers, and this Thomas Mulcair, who's the former leader of the NDP, he's literally going full fucking chimpanzee.
Yeah, and not only that, but it's like a woman getting tapped in the tit. You can sort of like gather around like a group of grinning fucking chimps as you humiliate some guy, whether or not it is humiliating. That situation, I've been in that situation. It's fucking humiliating, and you can't do anything. And of course, if he responds in any kind of physical way, they'll go ape shit. So, but that's okay. That's okay for the NDPers to humiliate someone, but Trustin Trudeau accidentally tapping a woman in the tit, oh my fucking god, everything melts down, and we get to act like goddamn chimps.
Yeah, no, and if you look at everybody in this scene, right, has their eyes on Trudeau. You got Mulcair posturing like a fucking silverback, right, and then everybody wonders why people start coming over from the Liberal side, from Trudeau's side. Like that it's like, is this going to be a bench clearing?
Holy shit!
Right? Because
they got aggressive.
Yeah, they're getting aggressive now.
Yeah. So I mean, like, of course his party is going to come over and provide him with some backup, like provide him with provide the other side with some sense that, okay, if you cross a line, we're here to help deal with it.
Case in point, we haven't really evolved much from chimps, or away from tribalistic pack animals, because this is basically two packs confronting each other right here, and you're right, like I remember from sorry to bring up
the NDP provoked the entire thing. They provoked the entire thing. Trudeau made errors in how he responded, and he could have come off squeaky clean, smelling like a rose and looking like a fucking boss, right? But he didn't. He made some errors in how he handled it, because he isn't trained in, like, he's not red pill. He doesn't fucking he doesn't read up on any of that, so the art of masculinity or anything like that, right? And so he's in fucking trouble. Now he's surrounded by like dozens of angry people who are all
angry
his
chimps.
Yeah.
And I wanted to say something. I mean, this is something that I've experienced. It relates to the Calgary Expo incident, and I apologize for relating it for those of you who are tired of me talking about. But when we had that situation where we had all of the Expo staff and these security guards hovering around our booth, and there was just a few of us trying to break it down, like one or at one point there was just 4 of us, and there was a whole bunch of them. Like there was the whole expo, customer service staff, because we were right by a desk, so there was about 6 to 8 of them, and then there were a bunch of security guides, and then on top of that there were some Calgary Expo executive staff, and they were all sort of lurking really closely, putting a lot of pressure on us. And I remember, like, there's just the feeling of just intimidation, just because you had so many people who were very not very pleased with you. And then when you guys, like a whole bunch of the people involved in Honey Badger, the volunteers, about 5 of you ended up walking in, and the moment that the more of us were in the booth talking together, it was a relief. It was a feeling of relief, because you don't feel like you're about to be set upon. I think it's sort of like an instinctive thing, because if you have at least more numbers, you don't feel like you're going to be set upon. So I think this is what's happening here.
This person,
there we go. There's the liberals.
Immediately after, okay, it wasn't her, but I had to go outside for a while.
You think she's milking it?
They are milking it. There's no doubt.
Absolutely.
And you know what?
I wasn't hurt, but I had to go outside for a while. And not only that, I missed the vote. Oh my goodness.
Okay, let's continue.
That's what you do. You have to do that.
Yeah. That looks like Jays versus Rangers.
It does.
Like, what is happening?
Well, that was a little different with the
It was a little
Jays,
different, yeah. Okay, fair enough.
But what is being forgotten here is a bill being delayed on a very important issue that needs to be talked about, and yet they're talking.
Okay, I just want to note something. Their Tim Cups have not moved.
Yeah, no, they haven't. But
oh yeah, is this like the Tim Hortons news hour or something?
No, I'm actually drinking from a Tim's cup right now, but it hasn't stayed still because I have something in it. I think they just have those Tim cups there, and they don't move them.
No, they have there's water in them. I'm sure there's water in them.
Well,
but,
okay.
Probably not coffee. But
probably part of their contract though. Don't touch the Tims.
Yeah, well, but here's the thing, right? Like he's saying, like let's look at the context here, right? There is a bill that is being delayed, right? And it's a bill that has a deadline, right? The Supreme Court gave the Canadian government a fucking deadline, right? The government has to come up with something, right? It has to pass a fucking law regarding assisted suicide. And if it does not do that, then it's like there's a problem, because there is no law governing assisted suicide. Anybody can go and fucking inject their freaking annoying aunt with rat poison and say, oh, she wanted me to do it, right? Oh, she's feeling a little depressed, just ask her therapist, right? And yeah, no, like it's like literally it's an important fucking bill. It needs to be debated. There is a deadline by which it must be decided, right? The NDP have decided they're not happy with this bill, right? And so what are they going to do? They're going to prevent a debate on it. They're going to stand and block people from taking their seats, right? And act like fucking toddlers and subvert their own fucking democracy in order to prevent a debate on a bill that requires to be voted on.
Or voted on, okay. I think we're pretty close, though.
With setting up a committee wasting more of our tax dollars for something that should have been, yes, the Prime Minister should properly apologize. He should. But
no, he shouldn't. What about the NDP? Acting like a bunch of jackasses.
Yeah, no, he shouldn't have apologized. He should have said, I really regret accidentally brushing the honorable member's boob. Maybe she should have been in her seat for the fucking vote.
Yeah.
That should be it.
But it also shows a prime minister that wants to get things done, wants to get things moving, pushing it
if you want to say that, yeah.
And somebody that takes initiative, maybe he's not following the exact same rules, but do we follow the exact same rules as things are changing now? No.
And can we remember, too, we're humans.
Yeah.
Things go wrong. This is going to happen. And it's so frustrating that you can't have there's no...
And they completely ignore the elephant in the living room. NDP, it's okay. Humiliate a guy. That's fine. Act like
Yeah,
a
no.
bunch of laughing hyenas while you do it.
They may
Engage
not,
in childish behavior, but him accidentally brushing a woman.
they may not ignore it for the whole thing. I mean, I think that it was this group that said, okay, they're intentionally blocking him from getting.
Okay, let's find out.
No room for an apology. There's no room for forgiveness. It's just you're wrong and you're going to be wrong forever. And I think it's like just let it go. Let's go. Let's get back to the real issue.
You know what? It's just mind-boggling what they talk about sometimes. You should actually go sit in on the house sometimes.
No thanks.
It's mind-boggling.
All right, I'd rather.
Okay. What?
I was just saying because I think it's been going for almost 20 seconds. So.
Oh, okay. All right. I paused it.
Yeah.
I don't think this is these. There's only slight sanity in here, Karen. Only slight.
Well, the one that I played, I seem to in my video, the clips that I played in my video, they did actually say, and the woman actually said, okay, they're forming a human barricade, right? Yeah. And they were.
That should have been the last of it.
Yeah, no, and what really frustrates me is actually we should see if we can find some footage of the bitch fucking complaining later on.
Well, maybe Brian can take a look for that.
Yeah, no, Brian, you can find footage of her talking about how she had to leave. She was so upset she had to leave and go sit in the lobby to recover emotionally from the trauma. Right?
That she had to run and
accidentally bumped in the tit by the prime minister, when she was misbehaving and forming. She was literally forming a human barricade, and then she accidentally got bumped, and so now she's devastated. She's got her clutching pearls and her freaking smelling salts, and she had to go to the fucking lobby.
And she's so scared.
She's
so scared of Trudeau.
She missed the fucking vote. She missed the vote. She literally was so devastated and so upset by somebody doing the equivalent of accidentally stepping on her foot, right, that she declined to do her job.
Oh, God damn it.
I'm trying to find it.
Okay, I'm going to finish this off.
Listen, Bare Naked Ladies' new album drops tomorrow. Yeah.
I got to do weather.
Oh, wow. Excuse me, I got to leave the floor for a second.
Okay, they are mocking it. Which is good. Which is at least reasonable. They're mocking that shit.
I have to this whole incident's just making me thirsty. I think I just want like a nice hot cup of Tim Hortons brand coffee. It's delicious, energizes you, and it's very reasonably priced.
Oh my fucking God.
Tim Hortons. You won't have to raise it up past your elbow to have a good time.
Okay. I'm gonna do this. Just to complete the shelling. Oh, for fuck's sake! What's it? So, did you find anything, Brian?
I watched it earlier today. Maybe I can find it.
Yes, can you get it from your history? Because I put in Elbowgate, and I get all kinds of things. Like elbows can't melt steel wire bras.
Oh, okay. Here we go.
Found it? Okay.
No. Okay, there we go.
What is that? Oh, this episode of Honey Badger Radio brought to you by
Tim Hortons.
Don't put anything in it because you missed the opportunity to sell it.
Okay, we're all right. That's good. Okay. Oh man. Okay, so thoughts on that.
It was the funniest I've seen the chat in a long time. I was dying.
Really?
So many elbow jokes. It was killing me.
Yeah, it's surprised that they didn't do some elbow sex.
Elbow rape. She was molested.
Yeah.
By Trudeau's elbows. Just fucking hilarious. I was dying.
Well, I think the real shame for her is that she didn't get more. I think that's what they're really saying.
She needed to get out.
Oh. Okay, so Shall we do an intermission and then begin the other part of the show?
Yes.
Or shall we wait? Shall we give Karen a few more seconds to find?
Oh yeah, I thought that it would just be in her history
yeah,
it's 802. So
her history, but she has like 200 fucking tabs.
Yeah. No, do you have any idea how big my fucking history is? And I don't even remember what website. Maybe it's even open.
No, Karen, how big is it?
Oh my god, fuck. Okay, I will come in and I will play it, even if we have to interrupt the show to play this fucking absolute fucking nightmare of a...
We could end on it or something after we've talked about the main topic for a bit.
Yeah, but first let's connect the elbow gate to the threat narrative.
And the elbow gate to the threat narrative, and the threat narrative to the shoulder bone, and the shoulder bone to the collarbone.
Guys, I think I found it. I found it.
All right, great. DD.
Okay. I'm gonna just.
Buying a used car. Buy with confidence
sake.
from a UCDA.
Oh my, for God's sake, Jesus! Stop that! Stop the crossbow.
Someone put a comment saying someone started playing the chicken song. There were no survivors.
Oh my fucking God. Okay, all right. Well, whenever you're ready, Karen.
Okay, just I'm searching for the spot in the fucking footage. Oh, here we go.
All right.
I found it. Okay. Just fucking calm down, Jesus Christ.
Brian, you're gonna have to give her control, as terrifying as that may be.
Okay, I could just send him the link and the timestamp.
Okay, well, or you could send me the link and the timestamp, and I could do it. All right, do that.
I gave Karen powers, but if you want to give the link to...
I can share it. I can do it. Okay.
And just select her so that we minimize the amount of bullshit. Okay.
Okay.
Yes, let's do this.
Okay, so let me just turn up the volume, and then we will
push the opposition whip through. In doing so, he elbows this MP.
I was elbowed in the chest by the Prime Minister.
Oh my God, stop it! Could you please not be using that fucking voice? Oh
Suddenly,
my God.
She was like, oh my God.
No, it's not even the Valley Girl voice.
In the chest.
It's the fake vulnerability voice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, keep watching because it gets better.
And then I had to leave. It was very overwhelming.
Oh my God! All right. Wait. Go back a bit, because I think I've...
Feminists have weenus envy. Can't handle the weenus. You guys know what the weenus is, right? It's the skin. It's the skin that covers the elbow. That's called the weenus with a W. I'm not kidding. That's what it's called.
All right. Feminists have weenus envy.
Okay. All right, do it.
It was very overwhelming, and so I left the chamber to go and sit into the lobby. I missed the vote because of this.
Is it just me? Is it just me or the guy in the background in the pink? He is stifling like a chuckle. Is that just me? Or...
Let's go back. Let's go. Look, this is
that guy back there.
We need to institute like the weenus awards. Like we revoke your woman card. You're now a weenus.
Yeah. Okay. Let's.
Woman or weenus? Let's find out.
Look at her face there. Ow! Yeah.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Rub a little dirt in it and fucking get in your seat where you belong. You fucking stupid, obfuscating, freaking obstructing whore.
Would it be too misogynistic of me to intimate that she may have been on her period and therefore had extraordinarily sensitive breasts? Because that happens.
It does happen, but you know what? You get elbowed in the tit, and you just get over it. Okay, you're like ooh, and then you get in your fucking seat where you were supposed to be in the first place instead of blocking the aisle and delaying the vote.
No, you get everyone's attention on the issue so that the group can see how this man transgressed against you. That's
okay. Well, let's do the okay. A woman, when she gets elbowed in the tit, says, "Ouch! Oh my God! I guess I should have been in my fucking seat doing my job." A weenus says the following. Go ahead, Karen.
I felt
No,
so.
just play it. Just play it. Just play the weenus. Let's hear her.
It was.
I was elbowed in the chest by the Prime Minister. And then I had to leave. It was very overwhelming. And so I left the chamber to go and sit into the lobby. I missed the vote because of this.
Okay, woman card revoked. You are now officially a weenus. I think this is the way I'm going to do it from now on. Thank you, Brian, for coining the term. If you do not measure up to an adult level of responsibility and being able to deal with shit and life, you are not a woman anymore. You are a weenus. So congratulations, weenus. You are.
Well, quick question. What is the vote that she missed?
Oh, it was about assisted suicide.
Because that's kind of an interesting point, that she's like, oh, I was elbowed, so I had to take a half a day off and miss this important vote. You know?
Yeah, no, it doesn't really matter what the vote was on. The issue was that the Supreme Court had struck down the existing law and given the government a deadline to come up with another law. And so we're getting very, very close to that deadline, and there's been massive debate as to how we should handle this legally, this particular issue, and it's getting very close to the deadline. And the NDP are what they were doing were very obvious delaying tactics. They were trying to delay a discussion about how long the debate should last before there is a vote, right? And whether there should be, more committees assigned to this and more blah blah blah, right? Like the NDP want something different than what this existing law is. This existing sort of the bill, right? They want something different. So they want more. They want the government to appoint more committees. They want the government to do more debate. They want the government to do more this, more that. Right? And Trudeau just wants it fucking done, right? Along with pretty much everybody else in Canada, they just want it fucking done. People should be allowed to ask their doctor, I'm terminally ill, I'm going to be dead in a month, right? I want to die now, can you help me out, right? Like, people want that question answered in the law, and the existing law is actually not that bad. The NDP, I'm not even fucking sure what they want added to it or taken out of it, right? In fact, it's usually conservatives who are the ones who object to anything like this and who are like, yeah, no, I don't even want to vote on this issue and blah, 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 right? It's, it's usually conservatives who are like, yeah, no assisted suicide, no suicide whatsoever, no abortion, no nothing, right? Life is sacred, right? So the NDP are probably arguing for, I think that what they're arguing for is for people who are depressed to have the right to ask their doctor to help them commit suicide, right?
All right,
okay.
All right.
So, and that's just not included in the law because depression is not necessarily an intractable terminal condition, right? And so what you have is the NDP want what they want, right? And they're going to hold up all of the business of government in order to get what they want.
Okay. I
don't mute you. No, don't mute me. I want to know what the Speaker of the House has.
Unfortunately, Karen, that was a bit delayed. So I did hit it, and then it took about a couple seconds. So there you go. I've unhit it, but it's going to take a few seconds for Google to actually recognize that I've hit it.
Okay, just, am I unmuted now?
Yes, you're no longer echoing.
Okay, good.
It is not appropriate to manhandle other members.
But then, Trudeau walks back toward the opposition benches, perhaps to apologize, and that's when Tom Mulcair starts yelling at him, obviously angry.
Yeah, you look at him.
That's not manhandling!
No, it's not. He wasn't manhandling anybody. He was actually helping out a fellow member of who was actually in the opposition, in an opposition party. But
he grabbed that guy like pretty roughly. It seemed like.
No, that was the party whip. So he was assisting him to get him beyond them.
Oh, he was.
Yeah, no, it wasn't.
Okay.
It was the party whip. It was a Tory party whip, a Conservative party whip. So it wasn't not a liberal.
It's incomprehensible to most people outside of Canada, but essentially he was going to be putting the vote forward, and Trudeau wanted to get the vote forward, so he was assisting him to get to his seat so they could go forward with the vote. But it's like we could re-describe this that we described for another hour.
Yeah, but it's like he wasn't manhandling the guy. He was actually trying to help the guy out, and you can actually see as he was walking away, as he pulled the guy through, right? He patted him on the shoulder, right? Like, there you go, like, I helped you out, bro, right? And so he gave him a bro pat on the shoulder. There was nothing badly intentioned there, in terms of that. But look at.
You're pathetic, he tells the Prime Minister. The two men get into a tense exchange. The cabinet out of their benches, then start flowing across the aisle.
Incorrect. The two men do not get into a tense exchange. The tense exchange is on one person's party, and it's not the Prime Minister.
Yeah, no, it's essentially Mulcair was like completely losing his shit, and Trudeau was like, "What? I didn't even fucking mean to do it. Like, what the fuck are you even, and he's surrounded, so all of his side are coming there to back him up and make sure that.
I just have to say that Canadian politics sounds like a really, really esoteric sport. So apparently, according to Sean Ski 001, the second whip did not have to be seated for the vote to start. Only one whip had to be seated, and he was already seated. Okay, well, excuse us. We didn't realize that the fucking the beater in Hufflepuff's beater was in front of the goddamn Flidget thing. These rules, or there's too many.
No, but I mean, like the Trudeau was like, you could tell he was frustrated, right? Because you literally have this water cooler gang standing around, not getting in their seats and not voting, right? And they're doing it intentionally, and they're having a lot of fun doing it. They're having a lot of fun sticking a fucking wrench in the works of government, right? They're having plenty of fun, essentially subverting their democracy. Yay! Go NDP. That's great. Behaving like children. And maybe it was not, and honestly, okay, so for one of the party whips was seated, okay, but you literally have to have the House called to order in order to have a debate or to have a vote, right? People can't be fucking standing in the aisle, right? You can't have a fucking vote when people are standing in the aisle. Both whips don't have to be present in their seats to vote, but you can't have people milling in the fucking aisle and have the House be considered in order and ready for a vote.
The NDP was off sides, okay? They were off sides, and we don't care that MLP, or whatever the hell she was, did a fall to get the foul. We don't care. Can we move on now? Like, Canadian politics is lost, all of its. Let's do a.
It's hilarious, man. You guys have the funniest politics. Aside from the kung fu fight that happened earlier with the Chinese.
Was it the Chinese or the Japanese?
I don't know that. I'm not gonna say it.
No,
Asian, fellows to the Asian persuasion.
I know it's almost a moot point, but let's have a little bit of an intermission, and I can refill my Tims. What do you guys think?
Yes, your hot cup of delicious, affordable, and
very Canadian.
And very Canadian Tim Hortons brand coffee.
Yes,
actually pretty good.
It's actually, yeah, there you go. Karen doesn't usually give those tepid kudos to things tepidly.
Yeah, no. Hortons coffee is almost as good as McDonald's coffee.
They work their fingers to the elbow.
and don't yell at me, Alison, because
high-end quality coffee to you.
Okay, select me, Brian. Select me, and I shall start.
I did. I selected you.
Okay.
What is this? An intermission? A break? What are you conniving political opportunists up to now? How dare you take a moment's breather from your scummy scam, you feckless gabernashes! If you don't continue to provide me content so I can complain that you're providing content, then you leave me no choice. I shall have to continue to complain with force. With force! Who's your manager? Who's in charge here? I want to speak to him and write a sternly worded letter.
Hi. Can I help you?
Oh, it's you! That disgusting animal-human hybrid right out of some sort of diesel moonshine fit. I want you to answer for yourself, and your vile crew of gutter snipes.
What is it that you have a problem with?
Oh, no, you don't! You're not going to ignore legitimate criticism by paying attention to it. I'm onto your shyster con act, dog creature. I want you to proceed to making content so I can complain about it at once.
Okay then. We're going to start the show.
Puh! You're going to hide legitimate criticism behind that bloody pervert paw prince. Stop it at once. Keep the camera on me. You're obliged to give me a platform to complain about your platform. No, don't you dare pull away like that. I've got the mic now, sonny boy, and you're not getting it back. Till I've said my piece. You're getting an earful now, my furry friend. I am dissatisfied. I don't like how you get ranty, but I also don't like the dispassionate relayance of facts. You look phony. Phony! You're all using men's vulnerabilities to make money by pointing them out. The only proper way to make money out of men's vulnerabilities is by telling men it's their own concerned fault they're vulnerable. That's the message men should pay for, not this mollycoddling codswallop sardery. Why, my grandpappy used to belt me one right in the face, and when I cried, he'd tell me that's why he did it. That's how a man should be raised. Give a sniffle and you get the switch. Men's rights. Why do men need rights? Rights? That's woman talk. A man should be able to support his entire family with nothing more than a thimble and a bucket full of shark chum. And if you fail to perform, you shall get dragged out back and shot. Why, my cousin Alger's always said a bullet is too good for a lazy whiner of a man.
Okay, so let's get back to the show.
Hey, there we go. We're back. We didn't go anywhere, I bet. Oh, okay, I guess I'm the only one back.
Speak for yourself.
This is a fucking Gong Show. Jesus.
I'm back.
Oh, good. Alright. I didn't actually have time to fill up my Tim mug, so I'm going to have to be right back at some point.
Okay.
Jesus Christ, do you still have the ghetto background sounds going on?
Yeah, I do, I know. Man, it's very it adds some color to my background when I'm talking. Like you just how many times can you know what I'm saying? Like a 5-minute span of time is I'm trying to count. Like I think I'm at like 46 right now. Yeah. So yeah, no, it dies down, then it picks up. I don't know. I think people are drinking and smoking and stuff.
Okay, somebody says, imagine Trump and puppet debate.
Oh.
That actually would be pretty cool.
I would watch that.
I nominate Puppet Codger as Trump's running mate.
You know what? I think
if not Codger, I think here's the trifecta, okay? Trump for prez, right? Gavin McGinnis for vice president, okay? And Milo Yiannopoulos for press secretary. I think that would be, and Secretary of State. He can do both jobs at once because he swings both ways at least once a year. From what I've heard.
Like he actually has sex with women.
He says he does that at least once a year to convince himself why he's gay.
Yeah, well, What part of it is convincing himself that he's gay? The sex or the having to deal with a woman?
I think probably both.
Oh, okay. All right. So we're supposed to talk about threat narratives and their uses and abuses. And
well, I think we found one in Elbowgate, didn't we?
Yeah, we definitely found one. Like, there's definitely a political use for threat narratives, and Elbowgate is one. And of course, you have the weepy femme is always at the center of a threat narrative.
Are we gonna defend Justin Trudeau in this instance?
Oh yeah, no, I don't have a problem with defending somebody who did nothing wrong. Like, look at me and Gomeshi. I can't stand Gomeshi. I hate his politics. I hate fucking everything about him. But I don't think he deserved what he got in that fucking whole debacle, right? Other than maybe helping to make the bed he ended up laying in, right? But you know, Trudeau doesn't deserve the bullshit that he's getting. You know, I think it was like absolutely absurd that he had to apologize 3 fucking times for what happened. And it's absolutely ridiculous, and I have no problem defending him when he's not in the wrong, and when the other side is completely fucking blowing up. I will draw attention to the fact that if it was, like I said, if it was Stephen Harper, everybody, including the media in that frickin' clip we watched, would have been like, oh my god, he's such a monster, right? But like, you know, I don't have, like, I judge a person by, I judge an action by what it is, right? And what he did has nothing to do with his politics. It has nothing to do with whether I agree with him in the overarching sense. I don't think he did anything particularly wrong when he did that. And I'm not gonna jump on some fucking tribal bandwagon because I can't stand his politics and I don't especially don't like his feminism. I'm not gonna jump on that and be like, oh, now I have something that I can really rub in his face and I can make political hay out of it. No, I'm not gonna do that. It's fucking retarded. So it's just like I'm not partisan in that way. I judge each action.
We're not ignoring the complete lack of respect shown for the other wet. When did you come in, Jonathan Peterson? Throughout this entire thing, we've remarked upon the fact that this guy was humiliated by these NDP jackals. But
that even if the purpose of what they were doing was not to humiliate him, the purpose of what they were doing was to get one over on the Prime Minister, and they were willing to humiliate this guy in order to do it. They were willing to, he was just collateral damage. I don't think that he was a specific target. I don't think that, their intent was to set out, oh, we're going to humiliate this guy, or we're going to humiliate...
Well, Jonathan Peterson, I'm glad that you apologized, because you should feel bad.
Oh, yeah, you're bad, and you should feel bad.
Yeah.
Jonathan Peterson.
Why weren't you here from the beginning? Well, he's just some random commentator in the chat. I have the things tiled so I can keep an eye on it.
You have to be careful telling people to feel bad, because Bad might file a lawsuit for harassment.
Oh my God. Hannah, no more puns.
That was your punishment for the day.
Oh God! Jeez,
Hannah.
The total takedown.
Into the penalty box with you, Hannah.
Oh, Brian.
Oh, God.
I don't even know where to go.
Might make her explode.
Well, we can always call it a day. Like, do we want to go? I mean, we talked about a threat narrative, Elbowgate. We haven't really gotten very deep into threat narratives. I brought some slides, but I don't know if you guys want to see. I actually showed those slides. I did the slides during the stream with Kraut and Skeptor and Sargon and Axel and a bunch of other people.
I would be interested. Be interested.
Well,
don't give that to them. Share it with us.
Well, it's too late. I already did give it to them, but I'll share it with you guys as well. because it was some interesting stuff that I found. And I think that Karen and Hannah probably has already seen some of this stuff because it was in my lecture, but I rounded it out because I actually wasn't running from, I had some time because I wasn't running from airport to airport and doing some really fucking shady shit to even get on the plane, which I don't want to describe in any kind of detail. Probably shouldn't. I'll be quiet now. Well, I won't be quiet because I can't. They don't want to have any dead air while I try to find this shit.
Right. Shh! Don't talk about the plane, Alison.
Yeah,
Just
I know. Don't talk about the plane.
Are these slides from your summer vacation?
No, they're not slides from my summer vacation. They are slides of stuff that I've gathered over the years regarding threat narratives. They start off with some wartime propaganda, and they go into some German wartime propaganda from, prior to the Second World War, and also some other stuff from other. Okay, what's going on here? Come on.
I don't know if you're aware of it, but it was one of my lunatic stalkers who sent me the link to this, right? It described that a situation wherein the Soviets they essentially disseminated propaganda among their own that the Germans had, and there was no real evidence for this, but that the Germans had systematically and brutally raped Soviet women, and they did it in order to rile these guys up. And what resulted when the Soviets actually went into Germany was lots and lots and lots of killing and mass rapes of women, after which many of them were killed, and the whole bit. But that you essentially have this sort of, we're gonna say they raped our women en masse, and then our men will go in and show no mercy, right? So
well, if Southgate is any evidence, it takes a woman in distress to get two men, fighting with each other, or at least one man actively pursuing another man with the outrage of 1,000 suns.
The outrage of that's good. That's a good one. All right, so I'm screen sharing now. Brian, you can do the honors, as it were, and I can. Okay, so here's a blank slide of nothing. Okay, there we go.
I see a woman getting tied to railroad tracks by.
Yeah, because that's the usual way.
Is that Gina Davis and? No, okay.
It's not. It's a stock footage photo, but this is the usual way that because you see that this is actually a photo of Justin Trudeau before he shaved off his mustache, and elbowed that woman in the boob, and revealed his true colors to everyone.
Yes, his Muay Thai skills specifically.
Yeah, exactly. I think if he was doing that, she wouldn't have gotten up again. But regardless, so yeah, this is a threat narrative in its purest form. A woman is afraid, and we have to save her, and then the guy's the threat, and the woman is the one who's sort of creating the threat because she's vulnerable to him. Therefore, yeah, I mean, it seems it's you guys can chime in at any point if you think that I'm going off the rails here. Anyway.
I don't know what you're talking about, but I disagree.
Oh, shit!
I have to. Sorry.
Oh, god damn it.
I disagree with it just fundamentally and emotionally, and yeah, and that guy looks like Daniel Day-Lewis from There Will Be Blood.
Oh, yes, he does. He does. Oh, I drink your milkshake. In this case, that could have a sexual connotation.
My straw.
So anyway, so for everybody who's not watching this with the graphics, there's a very dastardly looking man with a rope tying a woman to the tracks, and this is the basic threat narrative. It's just the presentation that there is a woman and she's afraid, and then that's everybody knows who the bad guy is in this. Everybody knows you need to be, you need to do the fisticuffs to prevent him from doing his nefarious things to this fine young lady. And in the NDP thing, all you need is a female victim, and then you've got a villain. That's it. So they had their MLP basically fucking humiliate herself into a weenus. MP, whatever. MP. She basically humiliate, like, in any way. If we held women to the status of adulthood, she should have been embarrassed to go up there, affect the voice of an injured child, and pretend to be a victim. That should have been humiliating. Anyway, but that's what they did. They trotted her out as a victim, and of course we have to, every time we have a female victim, we have to have a villain. There's no victim without a villain. And
Yes.
who's the villain in the NDP narrative? It's of course Trudeau. And and basically that's the fundamental formula for creating villains. And once we cast a group as a villain, or a person as a villain, any kind of behavior is justified towards them. Any kind of behavior. Well, it tends to progress in steps, but it starts with being vilified.
Including physical intimidation, which was what Mulcair was doing with him. Was extreme
fisticuffs.
Aggression. He was like, he looked like he was ready to throw down.
Yeah. So we know because that female MP got her boob twerked.
Bumped.
Yeah.
Bopped.
Yeah.
She got her boob bopped.
Because she was a victim, Trudeau was obviously a villain.
She got titillated.
But this is the formula that's used. That's actually from, that you should probably credit to the person in the chat who said that.
That was Hannah that said that, and I am appropriating her comment.
Okay.
For my own use. Now we could stay on track before the Karen train goes off the rail.
All right. Okay, so that's the basics. The most fundamental unit of a threat narrative is a female victim, because by implication, if there's a female victim, there is some kind of threat or some kind of villain around, and we all know that when she starts screaming, we need to do something to save her. Anything. And that's where all of the crap starts happening, because, and this is basically war propaganda, I think, from World War I. Might be World War II. I don't remember precisely. And
I don't see it. I'm still looking at the woman on the train tracks.
Well then, oh shit. Okay? It's not showing up yet?
No. Are you moving to a different image?
Yes.
Let me unshare and
Oh, for fuck's sake.
Is this a gallery?
Yeah, it's a gallery. Here, let me escape. Can you see
there
it
it goes. There goes something. Yeah.
Oh,
Okay.
this is from World War II.
Yeah, okay, thanks.
There's a Japanese guy, and they weren't really hugely involved in World War I.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. Oh, wow, what is a stupid mistake. Anyway, I think it was the style of the woman that threw me off. That's more of a 20s style, or prior.
Yeah, well, I mean, but you go back in time and you find that the images of women are more neotenous, more innocent, more Betty Boop-like, and that's what they were going for here, is a very, very neotenous woman, a woman who is, I mean, like, honestly, extremely childlike in her facial features, right? And
yeah, just like the female MP. If you listen to her, she started to sound like a child herself. She's had that breathless affectation of a child. Fucking embarrassing, but whatever. So, do you see it now?
Yes.
Essentially, the image, for anybody who's listening and doesn't see the image, it's a Japanese soldier threatening an American woman.
Yeah, we can see it.
Okay,
yeah,
next
with
one.
Hand over her mouth, and his other hand, he's standing behind her. He's got one hand around her neck and over her mouth, and the other one on her collar.
Yes.
And of course, he looks like less than human. His skin is like a different color, and he's fanged, and he has claws, and he looks slightly monstrous.
Yeah.
Yeah, his eyebrows and his eyes are very exaggerated and
sort of demonic.
Yeah.
But so this is typical wartime propaganda. And can you see the next slide that I'm showing you?
No.
Oh, for fuck's sake.
I don't
Now
know.
can you see it?
Yes, there it is.
Okay, so it's essentially something wrong with PowerPoint.
But that one's World War I.
Yes, that one's World War I because it's against
The Kaiser?
The pointy helmet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's actually a German reference, but they've really gone with the bestialness. But again, it's, you see the woman in danger, and you see the threat, and you're motivated to want to destroy the threat. Basically, most of your rational functions turn off, which is why this is used in the way it's done so often. Because you can, when you turn off people's rational functions, you can get them to do things that are unspeakable. Very easily. All right.
Yeah.
And then this one is basically again showing a woman and child being threatened, and it was a government body that actually created a study to find out that showing women being threatened was very motivating. And it is. It like for an entire population, you can motivate them to pretty much do anything you want if you just show that women are threatened. Anything. And so this is actually the previous slide. I don't know. Are you seeing these slides now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So the previous slide was basically the axis of evil's hands creeping in around this woman, and then the next slide is basically German propaganda from I think the Weimar or just prior to World War II. And this is basically the Jewish race defiler is what this means, and it's basically a book about what it says, and there are a lot of images in it in which Jewish men are threatening white women sexually. And this is another theme. When you really want to display someone as a villain or a man as a villain, you show them threatening your women, and this really turns people's brains off. And you can use that to justify any kind of atrocity. So again, these are illustrations depicting the horrible menace of Jewish men towards white women. And this is actually from a more current threat narrative. The Democrats using women again, or the threat, or women as victims to implicate a villain. The villain is fairly obvious here. And for those of you who are listening along, the Republican elephant is stepping on the symbol of a woman. And oh yes, and prior to that, we saw a Jewish man carrying a unconscious Aryan woman into his den of iniquity, and also leering on the shoulder of another Aryan woman. And then of course we have the Jew. This is just showing the villain. I mean, you don't even see the victim in this one, but at this point it's like, yeah, we all know who it is. After all, we all know who's the problem today, right? This particular slide is from a group called Name the Problem, and they essentially blame men, and they're like a radical feminist group, and they don't particularly like feminists or mainstream feminists, because when you point out to mainstream feminists, your ideology in which you promote or you believe that men who are women's fathers, brothers, sons, husbands, pretty much the closest group of people to women on the planet, and have had the most intimate bonds with women of any group, of any other identifiable group, if you think that they're oppressing them for their own benefit, then the obvious conclusion from that is that they are sociopaths.
It's interestingly at odds with what we were just looking at, because these are the same people who are aware that in order to create effective propaganda, you need to show women in peril, and that'll cause men to come to their rescue, but the villains are also men. So it's very strongly dividing men into this, like, the one good man who's going to come and fight against, the sea of horrible men. And I think it's just, for the first time, I think I've noticed how divisive it is, not just between men and women, feminism is, but specifically between men and other men. So that's just really interesting, I think, to me.
Well, yeah, but it's almost like an internal divisiveness instead of a man with different characteristics. like different racial or ethnic or religious characteristics, you now are basically implicating manhood, period.
Yeah, because the way they used to do it, like in those old war posters, what they would say, those men over there are a threat to our women. And then that group over there that we were just talking about would say the same thing about the men over here. They would say, those men over there are coming for our women. And you have to fight that enemy, that other enemy over there, that other tribe, the enemy. Now, in this sort of propaganda, it's just men, and actually making women in danger of men, whatever group, whether they were part of a group or just them as a gender, appears to be the most effective way to move people to action, right?
Yeah, it does appear to be. We seem to use it quite a bit. So in this particular campaign, because radical feminists don't like it when feminists, if you point that patriarchy theory, the logical conclusion of patriarchy theory is that men are congenital sociopaths. Most normal feminists will be like, no, that's not what I mean at all. And they'll try to evade that conclusion or deny it. Radical feminists embrace it. That's why they have these campaigns of name the problem, and they say that men, without men there wouldn't be rape, pornography, stabbings, torture, human trafficking, shootings, assault, genocide, abduction, stalking, gang rape, child abuse, murder, street harassment, war, or prostitution. They honestly think that these human problems are really caused by men, and that men really are congenital sociopaths, that they intentionally do this to hurt women. That's why radical feminists have a problem with feminists. They will go to the logical conclusion of feminist theory, but coffee shop feminists won't. They'll deny it. They'll say, no, we just believe that men deliberately went out to create societies to oppress their daughters, their wives, their sisters, their mothers. We think that's true, even though it defies all all the logic of psychology. It just defies it all.
Hannah wanted to
I
say
got
something
to point out, because it's a kind of a clever trick that they're using here too, that I don't know if most people would notice it or not, but they're using the act of presenting things that are not a problem, like pornography. Pornography is not a problem, but they're presenting it alongside rape, stabbings, and torture to make it look like something worse than it is. They're presenting street harassment, which is questionable, because feminists call a lot of things street harassment that are not harassment, or even bothersome, really. Like you can't say hi to somebody. It's saying hi to somebody is treated the same as nice tits, bitch. So they're presenting that next to child abuse and murder and war, and then along with that they present prostitution, which most feminists that are upset about prostitution are really more upset that men have access to other women, that those are scabs in this strike, basically, against the wall that keeps control of sexuality and sexual interaction. So we got these things that are made to look worse than they are, based on where they're presented and what they're presented with, and the coloring of the picture and the expression on the guy's face and everything. And it's sort of a sense of entitlement. Look, we can make you adopt our point of view on these items that not everybody agrees about if we do this. It's kind of an insidious, a little extra insidious thing.
Yeah, I was just thinking, it's pretty fucking insidious to turn war propaganda against men in your own culture. In some ways you can sort of justify it if it's a different tribe that's been attacking you or something like that, but this is war propaganda being turned on our brothers and sons and husbands and fathers. And the fact that I'm part of a society where that somehow became appropriate, sometimes I just feel like I'm an alien, because it just is so horrific that it just boggles the fucking mind that we have literally considered, we literally go out and we say, the kind of propaganda we used to show on the Huns, on those Japs, on those niggers, on those kikes. Let's project it at men, at our families, and our family members.
Yeah.
All of that hatred at our own families. Like, you can almost excuse it if it's tribal. But what the fuck is this? The fuck is this? We're projecting and then we have the government paying to project all of this hatred on men.
Well, it's just the next step. It's the next logical step with something like this. You start with hatred, and you start by hating the people that are the easiest to get other people to hate. They're the easiest to others, to the rest of your society. And you incrementally increase your spectrum of hatred to include everybody that you wanted to other, and not just the easiest to other.
Well, but the problem is, right, is that the reason why the government is willing to fund this is because the government actually is part of the reason that this kind of thing can even exist, right? Like, it's the only reason why women are capable of feeling this way about men in general, being convinced to feel this way about men in general, is because they're no longer dependent on men on an individual level, right? So they're no longer, like, okay, so if you can have sex, you have birth control, you're not going to be saddled with illegitimate children. If you have welfare, the government will help you pay for that, right? The government's going to help you every step of the way. You're literally, the government has stepped into the role of the man of the house, right? And part of me is like, why wouldn't the government promote this kind of propaganda, right? Because the government is now competing with individual men for women, right? The government has a harem, right, of women who are essentially living off of the government's dime, as if, he's the Sultan of Brunei, we're all fucking concubines, we're like 800,000 fucking welfare concubines, right, living in the Sultan of Brunei's palace, not in luxury, but hey, we got 3 squares, 3 hots and a cot, and doing okay, and the kids get to eat, and we don't have to put up with those. We don't have to actually care about these men, right? Because we don't need them, right?
No,
and
all I can say is honestly, if dependency is the only reason why women will tolerate this,
if dependency on men is the only thing that convinces women that caring about men is the right thing to do, then that is an extremely sad fucking thing, right? But I do think that we need to look at the possibility that this is maybe the case for many women, maybe even most women, that it is only through their dependence on men that they give 2 shits about them.
Well, all I can say is that's a minor issue when it comes to how I feel about the fact that when this started, women weren't in the streets saying, shut the fuck up. There's no way you're going to be projecting war propaganda against my relatives. And they just accepted it. That just boggles my fucking mind. It boggles my fucking mind that we, in many ways, we are the only ones talking about this.
But the problem is that men did too. Men swallowed it too. I mean, what did the feminists came along in the 60s and sold us all on the revolutionary idea that it's wrong to beat your wife. Okay, revolutionary, novel, nobody's ever thought of it before. Nobody ever realized it was wrong to beat the shit out of your wife for fucking overcooking the pot roast. Oh, wow, thank you, feminists, for showing us all that. Okay, go back to 1906, State of the Union Address, Theodore Roosevelt saying, we should bring back the whipping post for men who beat their wives because they are the most vile creatures on the face of the planet, and any man of good conscience would agree with that, right? Okay, so then, go back to the 1760s, right, to Blackstone. Oh, the men back then, and some of the lower classes, right, They still believe it's okay to beat their wives. But us here in the enlightened age of Charles II, we're better than that. We believe a wife deserves the security of the peace against her husband, and she should be subject to no violence or restraint, right? Okay, revolutionary idea. The guys in the past, they were horrible brutes to their wives. The lower class men, horrible brutes to their wives. But we enlightened folk now, we enlightened men, we have come up with this revolutionary, novel idea that nobody has ever thought of before, that it's not okay to beat your wife, right? And I guarantee you, if you combed the historical record, you would find instances of that all the way fucking back.
Zeno said, of course women accepted it, Alison. How does it surprise you that women are 99% sexist vermin? Well, I don't want to go that. It's really hard to not go that far. Ladies, if you're listening to, it's really fucking hard not to go to that conclusion, because this is sick shit.
I would temper that condemnation with the statement that I said last night on the fireside chat. We are all sexist. We are all sexist. The only way to not be sexist is to be 100% completely aware and awake and on top of every moment of every fucking day, right? That is the only way to not be sexist. When I watch a movie and I see a guy get kicked in the face and I see a girl get kicked in the face, you know what? One of them makes me feel a little more squicky. It just does, okay? Like, we are all fucking sexist, all right?
Yeah, well, it doesn't really help this feeling of complete nihilism when I realized that we had turned essentially war propaganda on our own men. Like, it's something that I still can't get my fucking head around. It's so baffling. It is, and the fact that nobody has stood up and said that, what the fuck are we doing? Until, I think me. No woman has said that. What the fuck are we doing? Why are we projecting war propaganda at men? And how the hell did we think that this was an appropriate thing to do? When did the fucking focus group come up with this shit? Oh yeah, let's like the way we treated gooks and kikes, and let's do it to all men. That makes perfect sense.
Oh yeah, not just all men, right? No, because let's not forget that that billboard, right, with the 14-year-old fucking boy with braces, right, smiling in his school picture. When I grow up, I'll beat my wife, right, and the little 8-year-old black girl, right, and of course they couldn't show a 10-year-old black boy because that would be racist, right, because that would imply that blacks are violent, but they can show a young black girl next to the caption, when I grow up, my husband will kill me, because, then the racism is just implied, right? The targeting of blacks is just implied, right? As being prone to violence. Right?
I'm sorry, this is where I skate off into nihilism town. Just trying to wrap my mind around this, but let's continue with the images. Because, let's just do it. Get it all over.
Okay. I have a weird question. I know this could completely go nowhere, but Karen, you were naming off a bunch of points in history in which there were threat narratives generated against men or whatever, and often by the state, in some way, like you were talking about the whipping post and all of that. Even though none of these are really radical ideas, they go back a ways. Could there possibly be a relationship between sort of like genetic reproductive bottlenecks and this sort of outcropping? Because most of the time, women select mates based on their ability to be providers and that kind of thing, right? And they make those choices, and then there are men that they don't have a lot of reproductive success, or they may not get any, and so they try other methods to get reproductive success. So they may try to
Okay,
make it look bad. You know what I'm saying?
I'm gonna draw a parallel between what you're saying, right, and that like what I see Roosevelt and Blackstone doing is one good man syndrome, right? Is just like really trying to elevate himself at the expense of well, I don't think Theodore Roosevelt did it because he essentially said every right-thinking man would feel the way I do and does feel the way I do. Blackstone went out of his way to denigrate like Roosevelt was proposing bringing back a punishment that had been used against wife beaters in the past, and he was proposing bringing it back because it had been banned in many states in the U.S. by that point as cruel and unusual punishment. Right, so he wasn't saying those guys back then were horrible. He was actually saying those guys back then were doing things right, right? But I give him as an example because it's not a novel idea, right? That beating your wife is wrong, right? Theodore Roosevelt embraced it. He was one of the most popular presidents in U.S. history, right? And but Blackstone was very clearly he was kind of pulling a Cenk Uygur, right? You know, those men back then, they would never have given women this, this accommodation within the law, requiring that their husbands treat them with dignity, respect, and nonviolence, right? And and the lower classes still don't do this, but we enlightened men, us good men, we do this, right? And I think that what one good man syndrome. I actually was commenting on a Bass Fizz or Bass Fizz or whatever the frick, however you pronounce it, video on, it was like a...
Zerse. Just call him Zerse.
Okay, Zerse's video on, it was like, I think it was called A Wild Body Positive Feminist Appears, right? And, like the body positivity movement could be described as crabs in a bucket, right? And crabs in a bucket is essentially when you have a bunch of crabs in a bucket, they could each individually manage to climb out of the bucket and escape, but when one of them starts to climb out, the others will pull him down, right? And pull him back in, and so none of them end up escaping. I don't usually use that. I use the toddlers with cookies metaphor. And the toddlers with cookies metaphor is, they set up an experiment where they offered these toddlers, you can have 2 cookies and all the other kids get 2 cookies, or you can have 1 cookie and all the other kids get no cookies, right? And most of the kids who were given this choice chose 1 cookie. They chose to have an objectively smaller reward to ensure that they had a relatively larger reward than the other kids, right? So they were concerned with relative benefit, relative status, right? How well they were doing compared to the others. They were more concerned with how well they were doing compared to the others than they were about how well they were doing objectively, right? In terms of how many cookies they got, right? And when you're actually, when you have something like a female dominance hierarchy, and the primary criteria for a female dominance hierarchy is going to be sexual attractiveness, most of that is going to be based on looks, because that's just the way things are in our biological, dynamic, right? The primary driver of what makes a woman attractive to a man, what makes a man approach a woman to even see if he wants to have anything to do with her, is whether she's physically attractive to him, right? And you have women in this body positivity movement who seem to, it seems like their goal, right, is to convince other women to be fat and stay fat, or get fat, right? Because they're worried about relative status. They're not worried about overall. They're not worried about like an objective scale of 1 to 10, right? If everybody's a 2, right, then the 2.5, she's the 10, right? And I think that that's probably what's going on with a lot of these guys who are, sort of pulling all of this stuff, is like they are pushing down. Right, they are pushing down. They're not rising on their merits. They're actually they're vilifying and denigrating and smearing the competition so that they will look better in comparison, in the same way that some of these women in the body positivity movement, I think, are ultimately driven on an instinctive level to essentially bring other women down because they don't feel like they can improve themselves, right? So they don't think they can climb the ladder, so they'll try and convince other women to climb down, right? So that's what I think is going on, is that you just literally have a lot of bad mouthing going on and a lot of denigration of other men going on by men, and it really is a way of distinguishing yourself as being good enough. So.
Oh yeah, that's good. Name it. Male violence.
Whoa.
Yep, they go right to it.
They totally used a bullet for an eye.
Mm-hmm.
Is this the same radical feminist group that put up the other image that we just saw?
Yep. It's the same one.
So, is this part of that? What is it? The radical feminist that said the goal of feminism is sort of a politicized lesbianism or something like that. Is this that kind of radical feminism? Like, I wonder what their end goal is. Like, is it to get rid of all men, or put them in camps, or what? I mean, it's kind of crazy.
I think for some of them it actually is. I actually know for some of them it is like just sort of just get rid of the men, get them out of the way, get them stowed away somewhere where they're confined, or get them rid of, completely. There are some feminists who are absolutely like that. They're like extremely radical. But I don't know whether this particular group is into the whole gender side thing. I mean, like they might just be, it feels really good to vilify men, and it feeds a kind of hunger in us to do it. And we don't even necessarily have a goal other than vilifying men. It's like I don't know. Like Alison would probably know more about this particular group and what their goals are. But
most
yeah,
radical feminists have no concept of. I don't think that they have any way of. They're some of the most weak-willed, pussy, weenus women on the planet. So I don't think they would ever be able to moxie up the strength to actually do something like this. Although they have some incredibly hateful concepts, and I don't like even saying that they are abject cowards. That doesn't mean that this behavior should be tolerated, because it causes harm just by existing.
Yeah, no, it just because they are incapable of actually acting on it doesn't mean that it doesn't contribute to an atmosphere that essentially makes violence against men palatable and justifiable.
Yes. What makes you think they're incapable of acting on it just because they might not act with physical violence?
Well,
you got to understand, feminists in the United States have had a long-term game plan that they've acted on during the 20th century and the early part of the 21st century here, that it has nothing to do with physical violence at this point. It has to do with things like getting laws passed that reserve the benefits of legislation or legislative protection from violence for women. Like the Violence Against Women Act, which replaced family violence law that provided shelters for anyone in the family that was experiencing violence, and with law that reserved those shelters only for women and children who were under 13 or female. So this is not necessarily something that acting on it has to involve attacking someone physically. They could be very well laying the groundwork for some other legislative change that will infringe on men's human rights again. further than we've already seen, or that will reserve the benefits of laws that offer protections or some sort of offer people assistance or aid or something like that. It'll reserve that only for women and exclude men and boys from them.
Well, Karen specifically asked if I thought they were going to be capable of doing genocide, so.
Yeah, I know, but that's the problem. We're thinking in terms of what radical feminists, that the most radical of radical feminists come out with. And in reality, the scariest thing that feminists do is that equivalent of the slow boil, with the frog in the pot, that they just in very small increments chip away at the recognition and consideration for men's human rights. And they use it to get incremental destruction of civil rights. And they do it not just to men, but to everybody in the long run. But men are the ones that get hit first.
Also, I wanted to add that while this is coming out of the really radical parts feminism, there are some feminists that are considered really mainstream that advocate or are in support of the messages that men are the root of all violence and destruction and war and everything else. Look at Anita Sarkeesian. She talks about when there was a shooting, she immediately went on while the bodies were still warm and talked about how this is toxic masculinity and is something that is a problem that is specifically male and has to be addressed. And she's not, like these kinds of dismissible psycho-feminists. She gets to go to the UN, she gets to go to large speaking engagements, sits on panels with people like, Bell Hooks and other more academic feminists that have books, and they do talks for several $1,000s and all that. And she does have or share those same values. So that's another thing too, is that this stuff doesn't just come out of the super psycho corner of feminism.
I also want to draw a distinction between the law and the culture, right? Because laws tend to follow cultural shifts, right? Like it's not like you change a law and then the culture, it's not like we decided, the government decided, okay, gay marriage is constitutional and and there's and so blah blah blah, even though only 5% of the population support it, so we're going to pass it, and then the culture caught up. No, the culture decided that they were, at least 45% of them were in full support of the right to same-sex marriage, and then the government passed laws regarding that, right? So governance follows culture, and what I think is, and Stephen Fry, he mentioned this, and he's a very, very adamant advocate for free speech, but he did do a little sort of speaking spot on the Big Think or something like that, where he said, we do have to be careful about our language, because when you start talking about a group of people using words like vermin and and pigs and dogs and rats and scum and and all of these sort of dehumanizing terms, and they're not like, it's not like dehumanizing like, oh, they're kittens or they're like freaking peaches or sunshine and lollipops, which are also not human. No, they're human, they're subhuman, and they are also harmful to humans. And when you start hearing language like that being accepted within a culture when it's directed at a specific group of people, you are in trouble, right? When that kind of language or the kind of scapegoating, right? And like you see it with the Jews in Germany. They're the reason for all our economic problems. They're the reason why we lost World War I. They're the reason why the Treaty of Versailles was so unfair. They're the reason we're in this predicament. They are the ones who are at fault for all of this. They are our scapegoat. And people may or may not argue as to the truth value of any of those statements. I'm not here to argue whether any of those statements were true or false. I'm here to argue what effect they have, right? And what effect they have is they poison public attitudes towards that group of individuals, right? If you look at the rhetoric among Hutus towards Tutsis in Rwanda prior to the genocide, it was all about, they were vermin, they were dogs, they were scum. And, you literally have dehumanizing rhetoric, and you have scapegoating rhetoric, you have rhetoric that blames, you have rhetoric that assigns privilege, unearned privilege to the group that you want to hate, and there's lots and lots of talk about how everybody's a victim of that group, right? And this is like absolutely 100% every fucking genocide is preceded by this kind of thing, right? This targeted group, they are privileged. They have unearned privilege. We are their victims. Everybody is their victims. They are at fault for all of the world's ills. They are scum. They are dogs. They are pigs. They are vermin, right? They are rats. And that's what leads up to atrocities. And what do we have? We have a government-funded institution, ideology, right, that promotes the idea that men have unearned privilege. Men are responsible for all of the world's troubles, right? Men oppress women. Women are the victims of men, as are all minority groups now, particularly of white men. And that men are pigs, men are dogs, men are scum, men are vermin, men are rats, right? Men are violent. Men are men are uniquely capable of evil, right? They are. If they are not subhuman, they are at least less human than women, right? And this is an institutionalized discourse. This is it's a systemic, institutionalized, government-funded fucking discourse about men, right? And this is the discourse that precedes genocides.
There's one other thing that I would add to this, because you're mentioning whether or not feminists would have the guts to act on this. When have they ever done their own dirty work? They never do. They don't go out and change laws themselves. Most of them don't run for office. They just complain about there not being enough men or women in office, and they claim that men don't represent them. They ask men to do their dirty work for them. So if there is a group that acts on this stuff, it's not going to be feminists, and it's probably not going to be women in general. It'll be men who are acting on behalf, in their own minds, of women, because feminists told them they are.
Like Thomas Mulcair. Ready to throw down in fucking the House of Commons over an accidental elbow to the fucking boob. Just like that.
Yeah, exactly. Or
you fucking simp.
Or all those guys that descended on the guy in the How Can She Slap video, who slapped a woman back after she hit him first.
Yeah, no, and that was an egregious situation, because she was the host of the show. She was an employee of the show, and the guy was a contestant, and the contract that he signed indicated that, yeah, no, you will not be physically touched in any way, right? Like, you're perfectly physically safe. The whole idea of the show is, she's gonna verbally humiliate you, and the other contestants, and whoever can stick it out longest, right? Whoever can, before storming off, right? They win, right? And she said something rude to him, and he mouthed off back to her, and then she slapped him. She violated the clause of the contract that guaranteed his safety, and reflexively, he slapped her back. He didn't even think about it. It was like a tenth of a second later. He slapped her back, and then he got fucking swarmed by all of these guys. You know, how dare you hit a woman? Yeah, well, you know, he didn't sign a contract saying he wouldn't put his hands on her.
All right, let's Speaking of government-sponsored campaigns, the Don't Be That Guy campaign was all over Canada. Anyway, the Don't Be That Guy campaign features two men with a resisting woman in a bathroom. Why she's in the men's bathroom, I'm not sure, but whatever.
He looks drunk, and so they probably, you know, the scenario is they probably just kind of maneuvered her in there. And she's unable to actually really resist. She's looking drunk and not okay. But yeah, and it's like you literally have, and then there's this like Mandingo with this white woman right next to it.
Exactly the same theme. In fact, exactly the same theme as a previous one. Oops. Sorry, it's sort of a little hard to... The
one with the creeping Jewish guy?
Yeah.
That's like forward, one more.
There we go. It's pretty much very similar concept. And really that's one of the main things. What I noticed about threat narratives is they really go whole hog on the idea of sexual threat.
They get that image idea from the Gamergate episode of SVU where the two guys follow the girl into the bathroom and.
No, this actually preceded SVU. This was what got Rights Edmonton in the news. Was that they actually they took these posters. They took a lot of the posters in the Don't Be That Guy campaign, and they even took the same images in some of them, and made statements about false rape accusations, made statements about women not being held responsible for their decisions when they've been drinking, and don't be that girl, right? You know, false accusations are a crime. Don't be that girl. And it blew up in the fucking media. I actually did a live nationwide broadcast interview on fucking one of our major broadcasters here in Canada over that campaign. Right, because it was like people were that up in arms about our counter campaign, our Don't Be That Girl campaign, and you know it's like everybody lost their shit when it was, you know, and the idea, right, like why they were so upset, that what it boiled down to seemed to be you're implying that all women lie about rape, and I was like, well, okay, if that's what you think about our posters, then why aren't you thinking that these original posters are saying that all men rape? Right?
Well,
because we're just using this template. That's all we're doing.
Because the threat narrative doesn't work when you apply it to women. It's an unfathomable.
It's different. It's just different.
Well, because then you can see the victim. You can see how the posters hurt women because it presents them all as being this one thing. But so you can see the female victimhood. But when you applied it to men, you just can't see the male victimhood because men can't be victims.
Well,
and we're progressives.
The posters are about female victimhood, Alison. Stop appropriating female victimhood and trying to apply it.
Yeah, I know. But it's the same. And you see this even in Susan Brownmiller trying to equate Emmett Till, who was lynched for whistling at a white woman. And what the sequence of events is she attempted to murder him with a gun, and then she went home and got her husband and her brother to finish the job. And Susan Brownmiller tried to attempt to make it that Emmett Till was part of a system of oppression along with the two men who murdered him. Because he was treating the woman as his sexual property by whistling at her.
And then her husband and brother were also treating her as their sexual property by murdering him.
Yeah. This is what she seriously advanced, and no one called her out on it. The women in the feminist movement are they are subconscious racists, ethnists, ethnocentrists, and they're subconscious bigots of the highest order. They're the women who would have been calling for black men to be lynched. And because they don't have any men left to call, it's not appropriate anymore to identify men based on their ethnicity or their color or their religion. It's not appropriate anymore to target men based on those things. They've just switched over to targeting men based on being men.
Well,
and
you know,
nobody,
like, what drives me
called out for this shit.
Yeah, no, what drives me crazy too is, right, like, I mean, there has to be some room, right, for personal responsibility here, right? Like, and I'm sorry, you know, like, this girl, right? If this kind of thing actually happened to somebody, I would feel really, really, really bad for her, right? But what is, like, where are her friends, right? Why is she not with friends, right? These two guys are obviously with friends. Like, I just don't get it, you know? It's just, it's very and literally, what have feminists done? They've transferred ownership of women's sexuality from their husbands, right, to the feminist movement. So.
Yeah, but nobody calls them out on it. Their bigotry has not gone anywhere. They've just masked it by saying, "Oh no, now we hate all men," or sorry, now we think all men are are rapists, innate rapists. Now we think all men have to be taught basic things like consent. You know, that we think all men are abusive. You know, and that they've disguised their fucking bigotry. But it remains subconscious, lurking in the background, and never called out.
Well, I don't think that this is a racial thing. I think that they are more likely to, and you can even see it in some of these hoaxes that feminists actually pull on campuses. I was walking home from the library, the university library, and some man jumped out of the bushes, and he was black, and he had a bad smell about him, and he smelled like alcohol or whatever, right? I mean, like, there are lots of those kinds of things, but I don't know, like, when it comes to these kinds of things, minority men, particularly blacks and Hispanics, and Muslims tend to be targeted more often in terms of false accusations, because I think maybe because it's more like these sort of random false accusations where nobody's actually named, but it's like it was a random stranger and I can't identify him type thing. That I think that maybe it's because there's this subconscious understanding on the part of the accuser that it's more believable if it's a black man or a Hispanic man or a Muslim man. And therefore they're going to be taken more seriously, right? So I don't know whether they're like actually targeting them because they specifically think that they're more of a threat, or whether they're targeting them because they specifically think that it would just make their lie more believable.
And that they think maybe society is more willing to accept it without evidence, in other words, because that does to an extent make sense, because everybody gets told that. Just the same as they get told that they won't get believed if they go to the police. So a lot of women with those stories will say they went to the police and the police didn't believe them, or they went to friends and their friends didn't do anything, or their friends didn't want to help them, things like that. They'll say they went to somebody for help that didn't do anything. They get told all the time that that's the way it is, that nobody's going to help them, that nobody cares what happened to them, or they're going to get asked invasive questions and treated like they're lying, and it's treated like it's a bad thing. So of course they're going to tell their stories that way, because that's the narrative that's promoted. But
yeah, I agree. And what's really the sad thing about that narrative too, right? Like the whole, they're going to ask you invasive questions, right? And like this is why I take issue with the sort of the 2% or whatever. Like, the false accusations are extremely rare, almost non-existent, right? narrative, right? Because if I was raped and I went to police and I knew that, you know, there are women out there, and who knows how many, right? Who knows what percentage, right, of reports are false. But you know, there's a significant number. It's enough that it's a concern, right? And they asked me questions. They asked me to repeat my answers a couple of times. They asked me for more details. They intensively questioned me. They really tested the veracity of my claim, right? I would say to myself, well, of course they're doing that because some women lie about this, right? And they have to weed out the false. It's nothing personal, and it's not that they don't believe me, right? Or it's not that my story is not believable or whatever, but they do have to test it against, they do have to test my claim because there are women who lie, right? And it's a significant amount of women. So they can't just take my word for it and send me home and arrest the guy, right? That's what I would be thinking, right? But when you have this narrative out there that women really just don't lie about rape, it almost never happens, right? And then you also have on top of it this narrative that you'll be disbelieved and they'll re-victimize you and they'll ask you, you know, they'll blame you and all of this stuff, right? And I go to police and I get subjected to that same level of testing my claim. I'm thinking to myself, why are they putting me through this? Women don't lie about this. They know this. Everybody knows this, right? So why are they must be putting me through this because they don't want to help me, because they want to just re-victimize me, and they don't care about what happened to me, right? And that would be my conclusion based on those narratives if I was subjected to that same degree of scrutiny. The necessary degree of scrutiny would be that they just don't care, they just want me to go away, and they don't want to help me, right?
It's just another threat narrative that uses women as victims to demonize men, because what they're doing is they're demonizing the big, bad, mean police officer man who doesn't believe the poor, innocent, maligned, you know, and broken and battered female victim, and he's giving her a rough time instead of helping her because she's a woman. And he assumes she's a liar because she's a woman. It's that same threat narrative. It's just, you know, got a little bit of blue painted over it.
Yeah,
right.
but I mean,
let's move on to the next slide.
It has to actually deter victims from reporting, and it has to actually be deterring victims from proceeding when they do report and they come up against that little tiny bit of questioning. When they start to think, oh, it's because they're questioning me because they don't want to help me. You know, if they've swallowed the line of bullshit. I mean, so literally there are probably women out there who backed out of the process, not because the police weren't willing to help them, but because they believed what feminists told them.
Okay.
Well, and that's probably part of the goal, too, because then feminists can use that as, you know, an excuse to continue to perpetuate the narrative and perpetuate the believe the woman narrative and their programs and their fundraising and so on.
And erode due
process cycle.
And erode due process and presumption of innocence.
So this one is be a man and not a monster. And it shows a man walking behind a woman, and his shadow is this red beast thing with his claws out. I guess it's just him, but with his claws out or something, towards the woman. That's very nice.
This reminds me of the story that we read on the Polecast. I think it was on the Polecast about the trans men. There were women that transitioned to men, and one of them was telling the personal anecdote about since becoming a man, he knows that, you know, if he walked behind a woman on the street, he could smell her fear, and she would clutch her purse and cross the street, or give him a wide berth, or start to pick up speed. And
but
he
what really
still blamed it on men, like essentially because it was
He said it was just evidence of how dangerous the world is for women. What?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Let's move to the next one. How dangerous the world is for women.
The biggest danger we face is this political group that exploits our fear, and because they're exploiting our fear, they need to cultivate it and grow it and expand it at every opportunity. And it can be crippling if their effort to do that works on a woman.
Okay, here's a zipper with a noose attached. Keep your zippers closed or face the rope.
What the hell is that? Is there country? I suppose there are countries where they hang rapists.
Yeah, I think this is from India, where they actually do kill rapists.
Oh God, yeah. No, that would make sense in India, because they do actually they execute rapists, and sometimes they execute them before they even make it to trial.
Yep.
And on top of that, India has one of the highest rates of false rape accusations. Like, I believe Delhi, I think it is like the false rape accusation capital of the world.
They have somewhere between 65 and 85% of what could be measured turned out to be false. But part of that is cultural, in that there are ways to use false accusations to get around your parents not giving you permission to marry. And parents have attempted to use false accusations to prevent their kids from marrying somebody that they didn't want them to marry. And weeding those out eliminates a large number of the false accusations, but there's also breach of promise to marry. Weeding those out also eliminates a large number of false accusations. So India's got a higher rate of false accusations specifically because of cultural practices surrounding marriage and their caste system.
Yeah, no, it's something like 50% of accusations of rape in India are derived from consensual sex between the two parties. And it's either, breach of promise to marry, or, he'd never promised to marry me, but I want him to now, and so I'm going to bring the charge to coerce that out of him, or his parents won't give him permission to marry, or she wanted to elope and her parents don't want her to marry him, and yes, they press charges. So, I mean, it's like about at least 50% of the charges of rape that get filed in India right now deal with just those cases with consensual sex. But there is a huge amount, there's like a huge amount of cases that are people bringing charges for extortionary purposes. So it's essentially like the Badger game all over again. I don't know if anybody is familiar with that term, but it's there are articles on it on the Unknown History of Misandry. It was sort of a common scam in the 1920s, 1910s and 1920s, I believe. And what it involved was a woman would meet up with a stranger. She'd chat him up. She'd flirt with him. She'd take him back to the hotel room, and then just as they were getting down to business, her quote brother end quote would burst into the room and demand to know what was going on and demand money from him. If you don't pay up, right, we're going to charge you with seduction, which was a crime at the time, right? Or we'll reveal to your wife that you were cheating, or whatever, or we'll smear your good name, right? And so they would extort money out of the person by threatening a charge of a crime, and most of the men just paid, right? It was a common scam, and most of the men just paid the money. And this is another type of false charge that's really common in India right now, is bringing a charge in order to extort money out of the target, right? So just very, very, it's seriously fucked up right there, because the laws have no safeguards against abuse. There are no safeguards.
This is the next one, which is the theme is sexual slavery. Now, of course, in the past, sexual slavery was obviously a Jewish endeavor, and now it's just a man's endeavor. We've made that progressive by including Jewish men and all other men. in the belief that men and here's something that's actually not as contravened by the fact. Women are more likely to trade in flesh than men, apparently, according to some statistics. So this isn't even reflected in reality.
Women are more likely to be the traffickers, yeah. Like women are often the ones who run the rings. They run the brothels. They run they run a lot of that kind of stuff. And they are active in sort of I guess you would call it recruitment, luring of new people, new girls. So yeah.
All of this is basically the same stuff. It's the same themes, the same kind of propaganda, racist, ethnicist, against other cultures that we're at war with, all of it. And yet in this case, it's directed at men as a group. I mean, seriously, this is some sick shit. I mean, look at that.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's like the Japanese dude again, you know, in one of the first images, and then it's just a guy in the same pose, right? One hand over her mouth, the other one on her neck, right? And her looking terrified. Actually, she doesn't really look that scared.
No, she doesn't.
But yeah, it's.
Well, we got to make sure that they still look like empowered and strong, even when being
or at least pretty.
Assaulted. Yeah.
Okay, next one. Oh wait, that's pretty much it. The last two slides are something not related to this, but yeah. The confluence between the way that we presented people we were at war with, or in some cases were in the process of genociding, or in some cases were treating or were subjecting to an apartheid, all of the propaganda that people have engaged in those actions that directed at the people that were victims of those actions, we're now directing at men. Progress.
Yeah, no, at our own men. It's so wonderful. Like it's so inclusive now. We have the diversity.
Yeah.
Now you notice that those posters, the bad guys on the posters, were all men to begin with. It's just that we've broadened the scope of, you know, and expanded it to other the men that we live with, instead of, you know, men that we can more easily other that are from somewhere else or from some other group.
Here's something else too. A lot of progressives today and feminists today would say that those old war posters were they're politically incorrect, they're racist, they make bad representations of you know, people from other races or cultures, and they're presenting them as monsters, as less than human, as subhuman. Those things are all wrong in their eyes because, you know, it's racism or it's nationalism or whatever, militarism. But it's okay if you have the exact same imagery and the exact same messages, but you're applying it instead of to a race of people or another country or another culture or another religion or whatever, you're just applying it to men across the board. Then they're okay. They're like, no, this is fine because, you know, this is okay. Like, this is
my
acceptable.
Patriarchy.
Yeah.
Well, because it's not singling anybody out, right? You know,
except men.
It's not singling a group out, you know, based on a characteristic that they can't change, right? So I don't see what the problem is. Like, they're not singling anybody out. Like, it's totally kosher and above board.
That's so funny because the only way that makes sense in society is if we don't care about how things affect men. And that
we don't. I'm sure. Like, how long have you been in this, Alison? How long have you been in this?
I know.
Society really does not care how things affect men or boys, right? Like literally, boys are driving by that billboard with that 14-year-old kid in braces next to the freaking caption, "When I grow up, I'm gonna beat my wife," right? He's driving past that, looking at it too, right? I mean, it's not like it's just men. and this is what drives me fucking crazy about the entire thing, is that even if you fucking don't care about men, even if you think that men should be man enough to fucking take it and just not worry about it and not be bothered by it and not let it bug them, right, and not let it make them feel bad, right, even if I'm willing to let that go, which I'm not, but if I was, okay, you know, imagine a 7-year-old fucking boy, right, and he's driving by that billboard, right? Okay, when I grow up, I'm going to beat my wife, right? And then he sees all of this other fucking cultural messaging. And then he sees, you know, he gets to his school and half the girls in his class have backpacks that say boys are stupid, throw rocks at them. And you're not allowed to say anything bad about girls. It's all girl power. Girls can do anything. Girls can achieve anything. Girls, 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 rah, 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 right? And like, and it's not that I think that that's a bad message. It's just there's no similar message for boys, because any message you give boys in that vein, right, there will be feminists saying, you need to include girls in this. This is unfair, right? Okay? It needs to be inclusive, right? So boys can't have a positive message just for them, right? But, oh my goodness, and girls can't have any fucking negative messages just for them. There's no girls are gross, girls have cooties, girls are stupid, throw rocks at them, which was actually the line from the Little Rascals, right, that book title, I think, was riffing off of, right? You know, like, there's none of this, you know, we're the He-Man, no girls allowed club, right? You know,
the He-Man Women Haters Club.
Yeah, whatever, right? But that's okay for boys to do that, because actually that's what boys and girls do at that age, right? Between
it actually, to make a point, it wasn't considered necessarily okay when the Little Rascals were portrayed as doing it either. That was something that was being made fun of. That they did that, and it always failed. The He-Man Women Haters Club always failed. So there was never a time, like, feminists want to say that this was an acceptable thing. That's the other thing. All this stuff, you know, feminists would come out and say, well, you know, women are oppressed, that's why girls need all those things. Well, if it were true that women were oppressed, these things wouldn't work. Especially things like this that use women as the center of the threat narrative, that it's, oh, a woman's going to get hurt. If we didn't care as a society more about what happens to women than any other group, then using women at the center of these would be ineffective. But
yes.
It's not.
Yeah, no, and I just want to say, like, yes, the He-Man Woman Haters Club was laughed at, but it was laughed at in that sort of indulgent way that, you know, oh, that's just boys being silly, and oh, the girls,
and they'll grow out of it,
you know, and they'll grow out of it, and you know, and it's really, you know, there's no harm in it, right? And that's really the difference, right? There's no harm in it. There's no harm in the He-Man Woman Haters Club. There's no harm in the boys are stupid, throw rocks at them club, right? As long as both are allowed to exist, but they aren't both allowed to exist now, right? And it's not okay to have a constant barrage of negativity aimed at one half of your population of fucking children, of grade school children, right? And a constant barrage of positivity to the point where it's so fucking saccharine sweet it makes my fucking teeth hurt, right? The degree of pandering to girls that goes on these days, right? To have all of that aimed at these girls, right? Like, who are we trying? Like, what kind of kids are we raising here? Like, what is this generation of kids going to even fucking look like when they're adults, right? I have no fucking clue, because we've subjected one to a incessant message of, like, you suck, you fucking suck, and you are at fault for, by proxy, for every problem in the universe, right? And the other one, like, yeah, no, you're great, you're wonderful, you can do anything, you know, you go, girl, and anything you choose, that's just great, and you can make any decision, and nobody has any right to judge you for it. That's what we've got.
Yep. All right. Does anybody have any final words for this before I read the letter?
I did, actually. Yeah, real quick. everything that you guys have been saying kind of boils down to one interesting thing to me, which is feminism very actively using women as victims, because you have male as a villain. I know they don't specifically underscore the damsel thing, and they like try to push away from that, but the whole point of these propaganda posters, as we see, is if there is a male villain and it is divided between men and women, that's the one's the aggressor, the other one's the aggressee, or the victim. Therefore, women are victims. So feminism is using damsel in distress in a massive way in order to wage war against its own men. So it's just really ironic to me that they put up such a front about not being damsel in distress and wanting to do everything themselves. Well, what exactly are they doing themselves other than saying that women are damsels and need to be helped? It's just the same circular thing, and it's really ironic to me that they don't realize that that's the whole point of their shtick, is that women are victims, and somehow they are still not aware of it. I don't understand how.
No, it's the same thing with Anita Sarkeesian, right? He critiques the damsel in distress trope. He gets criticism for it, and what does he do? Damsel like fucking mad, right? And it's just and she doesn't. I don't know whether she sees it or not, sees the hypocrisy or not. I just know that she knows she can cash in on damseling, on saying that she's a victim of mean people on the internet, and that she needs the big strong UN to save her from all of that cyber violence. So yeah.
Okay, well, I can read a letter. I invited people to respond to why they aren't currently patrons, and I did receive one in the middle of this show. So I think we could read that, because I think it's of interest and relevant to what we're discussing right now. So this letter is from Stefan. I've edited it down a bit, just because for length, and it is going to be a very long letter. All right. Hi, Badgers. I'm a man who has true lived experience in all that you talk on. I do not mean to cause offense. I'm saying I love the shows and they do good things, but they are far too driven by the negatives. I'm older, so this will be longer. No, I won't be offended if this is too long to read. I'm a single father of 3 daughters, 22, 18, and 16. In my younger days, I was accused of inappropriate relationship with a girl in school I worked with. It wasn't true. It was proven to not be true, but I knew I couldn't work there as a result. I have been married to a feminist. No, it did not end well. I help my youngest with her homework increasingly filled with a feminist narrative, and the eldest who has compulsory social justice subjects. I'm not some guy on the internet wailing about feminism. It's part of my daily life, whether I want it or not. Not all of it is bad, but it does need to be thought through calmly and with consideration about what they're really trying to achieve. Yes, there is a lot that is hard to accept as anything other than garbage. Increasingly, I see men being put down for no good reason. When my best friend, a woman and a lesbian, did that recently, I lost it. She knows that all I do and others do, yet it's seductively easy to blame men for any issue. That the honey badgers stand up for men is great. It's needed. That you do not seek to earnestly draw a line between positive and negative male behavior is not. Issues such as pedophilia, trolling, rape are real issues, unless you mention it with statements like rape is a terrible thing, but generally in the context of debunking rape statistics. That's a long step from drawing a line in the sand. Okay, Stefan, we've just gotten through a show in which we've essentially gone through government-sponsored propaganda that is essentially war propaganda against men, to which I think we are the only women who have ever pointed it out and said, hey, we need to stop doing that. I know you want us to talk about men's bad behavior, but the sheer enormity of what I've been seeing coming out directed at men, and women haven't even spoken up or are the authors of it. Like, it's just, I don't see the relevance of talk. Yes, men who rape are bad. Yes, men who engage in domestic violence are bad. Yes, men who have sex with children are bad.
Yeah, who isn't talking about that?
Who isn't talking about that?
That's my question. That's my question. How many people need to be talking about that? The other question I have here is, why, when we are talking about what men need, do we have to add as a caveat what men do wrong, when what men do wrong is the predominant narrative? It's the prevailing narrative.
To the point where the narrative sounds like war propaganda directed against a group of people we're at war with. We're actively trying to kill or suppress or genocide or subject to an apartheid. Literally, we have projected men's bad behavior so huge that it resembles war propaganda, what we're directing at men now.
And the other thing that bothers me is, why is it that people take discussing what men need as a way of excusing any bad behavior in men? Like, all right, so we say men are starving for human rights recognition, and all of a sudden that's excusing rape? That's not excusing rape. It's not giving in to the prevailing narrative that all men are rapists. And not giving in to the prevailing narrative that all men are rapists is not a way of saying that no men are rapists. In order to make that, to jump to that conclusion, you have to have absorbed a little bit of that narrative into yourself. You have to have taken it into the point where not all men do this feels like a contradiction to, something that hasn't even been said. It feels like no men do this, not because no men do this was said, but because you're so geared toward thinking of it as something that men do. And that's a problem.
Yeah,
that's a huge problem. And it's something that has been hammered so hard into men that even men who don't identify as feminists are uncomfortable having their rights talked about, having anybody talk about them as what's good in men, and having anybody talk about the fact that it's not true that it's a male behavior, like as in it's gendered toward men doing it, and it's not true that it's a majority behavior. This is something that I don't think people recognize what's been done to men here. I mean, I understand that you can be uncomfortable and feel like women might be offended. You can be uncomfortable and feel like a political perspective might be offended. And you can be uncomfortable and feel like it's all negative. But the reality is, where you're coming from with this is an injured place, where you've been taught to think of yourself as something bad, to the point where it feels like you've committed a wrong or we've committed a wrong by not adding the bad in when we talk about the good in men and what men deserve, as in equal treatment, equal human rights recognition, equal consideration. When it feels offensive to be told you deserve equal human rights consideration because we are not giving that little bit of condemnation that you're used to receiving, you're abused by all of society.
Yeah, I'm not about to, I'm not about to sit here and say that we need to talk anymore about what men do wrong, because men don't do much wrong. Humans do. Humans have sex with children. Humans rape. Humans engage in domestic violence. That's what humans do. Men don't do it. Humans do it. Women don't do it. Humans do it. Do you understand the difference? What I'm saying? When you say women do rape, you're saying men don't. When you say men rape, you're saying women don't. We don't do that. Humans do all of those things. So we don't need to say that men do them. Regardless, again, we need to continue. That is where I find you guys undermine yourself outside of the believers. You talk about everything you don't want, but that just gives men the impression that the world is against them. While I think that it's true, I don't think it helps to have their advocates saying that. I get that you see it as taking down the feminists, but that is just saying the shitty status quo is all you can aspire to.
No. No. Okay, he literally said, you tell men that the world is against them, and that might be true, but blah, blah, blah. Okay, no. Is it true? Is it?
Well, to be honest, I've just gone through war propaganda directed at men. I don't know if the world is against them, but the fucking U.S. government maybe.
All right. Well, how about a scenario here? There's a hurricane. The hurricane blows your house down. The house is flat now. There's nothing there, and it's time to rebuild. Do you deny that the house is gone? Do you ignore the fact that the house is gone? Do you not talk about the fact that the house has been blown down when you're trying to figure out the steps that are needed to rebuild it? Because if you do, you're going to fail.
Yeah, you can't really fix the problem by denying it exists.
Yeah, I don't think that there's any value in concealing the truth from people. The whole idea is to let people know what's really going on. And here's the thing too, right? Like, he seems to think that knowing the truth, right, is disheartening, or it's going to discourage men in the long run, or whatever. It's not doing anything useful for them, or whatever, right? Well, au contraire, because a lot of these men, they're walking around, right, feeling all of the feelings that you would normally feel if you had essentially had fucking wartime propaganda about you, targeting you as like subhuman all over the fucking place, but you just were really not able to see it or couldn't understand exactly why things are the way they are, right? And you're just like kind of lost in this confusion of not knowing why, right? And to be able to assign a why. Why is this happening? Oh, this is why this is happening, right? And this is the context of a lot of the emails that get sent to me is, thank you so much. I don't really, like, my life has not changed, right? But my perspective on it has changed because at least now I know why, right? Like, my life is shit, but at least I know why, and I'm not wandering around going, why, right? So, yeah. Sometimes it helps even just to know the truth, even if you can't do anything about it.
And there's also the validation. There are some guys that have been through things that have been absolute hell. And they look around, and it's like, am I the only one that is noticing that I've been wronged? Am I the only one that can figure out that it's not okay to lie about me and put me in a jail cell and keep me there overnight or keep me there for however long? Am I the only one that realizes that it's not okay to put me in the poorhouse, that it's not okay to put me on the street so that my ex-wife doesn't have to have a job? And things like that. There are guys that need to be able to hear from someplace else, no, when somebody does that to you, that's wrong. You have been wronged. We see it. You're not alone. And that's something that you can't really quantify that. It's very hard to explain, other than it's easier to pick yourself back up from a situation like that if you have support from other people who can at the very least acknowledge that you have something to pick yourself back up from. And when all of society is telling you, you deserve this, this isn't wrong, this is your place in life, you just have to deal with it. It becomes crippling.
Okay, so next paragraph. Oh, this is going to really piss me off. And no, action is not giving someone else money to do it for you. I am not a patron of the Badgers, though I have thought at times because it is an easy out. Done my bit for the week, gave cash, guilt gone. Bullshit. Okay, you take your pot shots at me and anybody else at this panel. You fuck with the patrons, you get the horns. Seriously, Stefan, don't fuck with our patrons. Because these are the people who are giving something of themselves, putting into a crazy idea that may not even work. And I'll be frank, When you do experiments on giving in children and adults will give their time before they will give their own resources. Resources are a part of yourself in a way that we often don't see time as a part of ourselves. I mean, fuck, they're probably giving more and more invested and braver than I am. The people who are actually making this possible, the patrons. So don't fuck with them. And don't call them cowards or say they're just doing it out of guilt. They're doing it because they have a courage to put themselves into this. They have courage to put a bit of themselves into something that may not fucking happen. Now, I'm not saying don't give your time or that's necessarily lesser if that's what you have to give. That's fine. Just don't fuck with them. Because it is a huge fucking sacrifice to give up your resources. And okay, I'm gonna get off my soapbox because I probably sound like a lunatic anyway.
Well, I'm just gonna ask a real serious question. Does he think that in order to help people, for instance, who have become victims of domestic violence, that instead of donating to shelters and things like that, that house people and help them get new jobs and help them get, on their own, that maybe he should bring a domestic violence victim into his house, or maybe a homeless person, somebody who is completely down and out and maybe has a mental health problem or a substance abuse problem that has contributed to their homelessness, or has happened as a result of the crushing fallout of becoming homeless. Maybe he should start taking some of those people into his home. Certainly donating to those shelters is useless. And of course, I hope he doesn't donate to any political parties. He doesn't give it to either political party, that's the two predominant parties of whatever his country is, because he's just throwing his money away just because those people are doing something that he's not doing. And clearly he should run for office instead. And I hope he's not of any, given religion where he might be donating to a church or some other organization that feeds the homeless or goes and ministers to a foreign country, to people in a foreign country who can't read and teaches them to read, and definitely not to a university where students might gain information that they don't already have, that they might, get a diploma that'll lead them to better job prospects and things like that, because he's not acting as a professor. He's not in there doing the teaching himself. So obviously he's a coward for donating to any university that he might donate to. Clearly we should do everything ourselves and never pay anyone else to go out and do something that we ourselves are not in a position or do not have the tools to achieve, because that's cowardice, right?
Yeah, that's the other thing. It's like, we do what we can. I mean, even radio is a bit of a stretch for a bunch of artists. And I just done my bit for the week, cash, guilt, gone. You think that's what this is? Anyway, instead I focus on doing what I can in the real world to make it better. Can I do both? Maybe, but I need to see you guys are doing more than fighting the fight. I want to know how things can be better. I want to know what is better. I want to hear your take on the hard topics like pedophiles or education. Not the easy ones like the wage gap myth or the latest MTV bullshit. I want to see you guys doing more than fighting. Okay, how things can be better is recognizing that men have a right to be at the table. And the way you do that is by presenting how... Sorry guys, that's my freaking compressor. It's actually really difficult to talk through that. The way that you make things better is to try to somehow scrape out, carve out, build a society that can bear the sight of male vulnerability, can bear the sight of how things affect men. That's the only way that we can start to bring men to the table and say, hey, this law, this issue, this concept, maybe we should run it by and see how it affects men before we just implement it. Or maybe we should stop just screaming, what about the women's and who cares about the men's? And maybe groups that do that.
I've got one thing left to say here, and then I have to go because I've got to leave for work. But I want to point out, we are in the midst of an information war. This isn't something that, I know it sounds dramatic to say that, but Alison just showed all of that propaganda. Propaganda isn't necessarily just posters on the wall. Propaganda includes MTV and BuzzFeed and Law and Order SVU and any place else that a narrative can be inserted in a way that it is going to become part of the public discourse or even just part of the public mentality. And it is vital to deconstruct and expose propaganda wherever it is, and especially when it is targeting youth through popular culture. And that is why we do what we do with MTV and BuzzFeed and all those other things. It has nothing to do with it just being, pop culture. It has nothing to do with it just being something that people pay attention to. It has everything to do with the fact that because it is those things, it is there, and it is there by design to affect the way people think in a very sneaky way, and that has to be exposed.
Okay.
I'm gonna say good night, everybody.
Good night, Hannah. Next paragraph. This should be over. More importantly, when was the last time anyone asked a school or university to demonstrate how they can justify their fees to society? The reason why there are so few male teachers are low wages and apparently too big fees on too many pedophiles left unchecked for too long, leading to an unsafe work environment for men, and unwillingness to modernize practices. So you were subject to a false accusation of sexual abuse of one of your students, I believe, and you're saying that that was because there are too many pedophiles in the school system?
Yeah, no, Alison. There are too many pedophiles in the school system, but I think you will agree with me when we say that when it comes to teachers indulging in improper relationships with their students, their minor students, that's a woman thing these days. That's absolutely a fucking woman thing these days. In fact, there was one state, and I wish I could find the news story again, that was kicking around the idea of decriminalizing pedophilia between teachers and students because too many women were being caught under that law. Too many women were being caught up in that law. It was a law that they passed. It used to be because, these students, they're 14, 15 or whatever, right? They're above the age of majority, right? But they criminalized teacher-student relationships when, when the student is under the age of 18 or something like that, right? They criminalized that in particular to protect female students from male pedophiles, from male teachers. And what ended up happening was, oh my goodness, they started catching female teachers fucking their male students left, right, and center, right? And they were like, oh my goodness, maybe we should decriminalize this again and just leave it all in the hands of the schools.
Okay, so the last thing, I found that fucking baffling. Like, he was accused of being a pedophile or abusing his female, and the real problem is that there are too many other male or other men who are pedophiles in the school system?
Yeah, no, I know. It couldn't possibly be that there's a prejudice there that has essentially just targeted men for that, and therefore he just came under the guise of an unjust prejudice, like that is like really that there's no basis behind it. I mean, like anybody who wants to fuck kids, right, male or female, is going to be looking for work in a daycare or a school or somewhere where the Girl Scouts, the Boy Scouts, whatever. They're going to have access to kids, right? That's what they're going to do. They're going to volunteer to coach soccer or whatever, right? They're going to do those things so that they can have access to kids, right? That is what they're going to do, whether they're male or female, right? That doesn't mean that there's like an overabundance, an unchecked freaking plague of male pedophiles in the school system. There isn't.
No, there isn't. And that's just, it's really difficult. Okay, I'm going to say one more thing. Young men, all men are no more victims of feminism than they are victims of any other screwed up ideology. In the past, good men acted. In the future, good men will act again. That action is not to make constant commentary about why feminism is wrong.
You know what? I don't fucking care. You know, like for me, you know, like, and I do care. I do care about how feminism hurts men. I do care about how feminism hurts boys. But you know what I care about the most? Is that feminism is a load of bullshit. It is a steaming pile of lies. And we are basing some of our fucking federal laws on it. We are basing laws on this fucking pile of lies. We are basing public policy on this pile of lies that doesn't just hurt men and boys. It hurts everybody, right? Like, I'm sorry, but when you look at domestic violence, right, if you are going to accuse me of attacking feminism, oh, you're just unjustly attacking feminism, so what if they only concentrate on the male half of the problem? Well, okay, so they only concentrate on the male half of the problem. So, you know, when women end up sustaining the majority of their severe injuries, when their men are hitting them back because the women initiated the violence, right, that's hurting the women. Not addressing women's violence leads to severe injuries for those women. That's when women are most likely to be severely injured, right? And so not addressing their violence, right, is not helping them. It's not helping their families. It's not helping their kids, right? It's not fucking helping anybody. And allowing a woman to beat the shit out of her husband and then put him in jail for it, right, and then leave her alone to raise her children in her fucked up mentality, that's not fucking helping anybody, is it? Right? And that's law. That's the fucking law in my country and in the United States and in the UK. That's the fucking law. Right? When in doubt, arrest the man.
That's pretty much true. Okay, so this is his final statement. And I couldn't read all of the letter because it was way too long. Please, if you do write in why you did donate or don't donate to topic@badgerpod.com, don't write an epic novel because it won't be read. So love to you all, and I do hope you keep fighting. Keep up the fight. In the world, in your way, you are trying to make the world a better place, and I can't fault you for it. Okay, Stefan, I love you too. You're a coward. There are things in your life you are not facing, and you are projecting them onto us. You need to look in the mirror. You need to find those things that you are not facing, and you need to face them. And I'm saying this, you're going to listen to this and you're going to say that I'm an asshole. Fine, call me an asshole. But this is what I feel like you need to hear. This is for you. This is what I'm saying for you. You are avoiding things. You are insisting on seeing the world in terms of men's agency. Instead of recognizing that men are a victim of pedophile hysteria, you're saying that men are responsible for being pedophiles too much in the school system. Even though you were a victim of that. And I think you're doing that because you cannot see yourself as a victim. Well, if you can't see yourself as a victim, you are going to be ruled by other people who are very willing to put you in the role of villain. So the thing about vulnerability is if you look at domestic animals versus wild animals, domestic animals serve our needs. And domestic animals have no perception of their vulnerability to us. That's the nature of domestication. When you're a domesticated man, you don't recognize your vulnerabilities to women or society, because that is the nature of domestication. You see yourself only in terms of the needs of others. That is the nature of domestication. You see yourself only in terms of the strength you bring to the plow. That is the nature of domestication. And when people point out, hey, wait a second, why do you have to live your life behind a fence with a chain attached to your hoof? You turn on them and you say, you're insulting me by pointing out that I'm vulnerable. Because as a domesticated animal, you have been taught that your vulnerabilities are insults to you. You know why they've been taught? You've been taught as a domestic animal that your vulnerabilities are insults to you? Because if you look at wild animals, what are wild animals? Wild animals are aware of their vulnerabilities in every moment. Every moment. They know that they are vulnerable to the environment. And in particular, they know that they are vulnerable to human beings. That's what makes them wild. That they are aware of their vulnerabilities. You are domesticated. And part of the reason why you've been domesticated is because you consider your vulnerabilities to be an insult. Someone pointing them out is an insult to you. The first step is to realize that recognizing your vulnerabilities isn't an insult, isn't an ego death. It's the first step to becoming wild again, to being your own person or your own man. And I'm telling you this, Stefan, because I appreciate you writing in and giving me your thoughts. However, I still believe you need to hear this. You're in a war with your own vulnerabilities. You're in a war with your own freedom. Okay, I'm good.
All right. I don't know. Are we?
All right.
Just end it.
I'm gonna end it then. All right.